Alright, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again from the flight deck with Captain Nabs here, and we are here for another episode of A Pilot's Life here on Twitch, so welcome to everyone. As you can see, we are still flying the 321 for Air Transat. We got one more leg to do in the 321 before we're going to switch aircraft type. We're going to continue work for the same airline, but we're going to have to switch aircraft types for the next leg. But this one is still the 321. We're just completing our little triangle here. We've done Toronto to Vancouver, Vancouver down to where we are right now, which is Puerto Vallarta, if you can read it on the terminal building over there. And we are now going to be preparing for the final leg of this triangle, which is Puerto Vallarta back to Toronto. It's going to be, again, about a 4-hour flight, give or take, with a little bit of a tailwind. So here is the current flight listed. There it is. From Puerto Vallarta up into Toronto, and I do need to select my aircraft here as well on this page before this flight will automatically start, and now it will automatically start once we fire up the engines here, or it should. Beautiful day in Puerto Vallarta, beautiful day in Toronto, a little bit windy in Toronto, but otherwise it looks like a beautiful day. So without further ado, this is going to be a bit of a long leg again, so we're going to get it started, and we'll get this flight underway. So thanks guys for joining us, and let's go ahead and hop in that flight deck. Now, one thing I did do was I did get the FS2 crew guy to start here for us just before we hopped in the flight deck. So he has powered up the airplane, as you can probably see here. Everything is powered on, and he's going to go out and do the walk around in a second. Here is the FS2 crew screen. As you can see, the countdown timer has already been started here. I'm going to put it right about there. And we got about 27 minutes left to departure. If we can do it in less time than that, then more is the better. We'd like to leave early today because we got a bit of a long leg ahead of us. Before we get going here, of course, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need some fuel. Of course, we need some fuel. Today's fuel load, we're looking at not quite a full tank, at least all the way back today. Excuse me. But I am just going to have a quick look here. I've got my flight plan up on the other screen. I'm going to bring it up in a second here. But we are going to have to load the aircraft and call for some fuel, because it's going to take a while to jam this much fuel into the airplane. I'm just having a quick look here to see what the maximum fuel we can take is based on our payload, and we can take, so we could take about 2 tons of cargo here. We got a really full bus of 203 people, not totally full, there's a couple of empty seats scattered throughout the airplane, but still overall pretty full, and we can still take about, we're looking at a block of 18.5, I'm going to round it up to an even 19 tons of fuel, so not quite the 19.15 max, but darn close. And with that, since we've now got that programmed in, we're going to go ahead and ask GSX, bring the refueling truck around if you would, and the plane's been sitting here for a week, so I would request some catering, because if anything still is left on this airplane after a week, it's probably pretty disgusting. Alright. I know back to this config screen because I clicked run PF without actually checking it properly, but it looks like everything is set up here correctly. So we can go ahead and just scan through the flight deck for the couple things we need to do before we get working on the FMS here. So to start with, we've got to put the ADIRS, or ADIRS, or however you want to call them. I like to call them ADIRS, I don't know. ADIRS is just so long to say. If you say ADIRS, it's 2 syllables instead of 5. It's definitely cut it down anyways. Alright, and everything is on, no white lights. Fuel tank systems are all on. We don't have the APU running, so we can test everything without issue today. And as well as seeing the lights come on overhead, we should also see the checklist coming up there on the ECAM.
Okay, I'm out for the walk around.
Thank you. Alright, so that's good. Those all checked out. He's gone out for the walk around. We're just going to check, because one thing he does, what it seems to do, is put lights on. Nav lights should be on as soon as you power up the airplane, so everyone knows the airplane's powered up. I see the fuel truck coming. I see some other trucks driving around. I'm not sure what those are. Those are catering trucks here? Okay. Yeah, looks like it. Alright, so catering and fuel is just about here. We got the lights are all on the way they should be. Yeah, looking good right now. It's going to be a daytime flight again, so you guys should hopefully see lots of stuff. See this beautiful scenery here. It really is quite nice here, the palm trees and everything. The way this airport scenery is laid out, like, look at that. Like, you see the trees sitting here on the ramp, seeing the buildings in the distance over top of the trees. That looks really good. There's some areas where it's not quite as good, but overall this is a really nice scenery. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm glad we came here. Okay, so we got everything set up on the overhead panel. Now, as always, we are going to go ahead and pop this out right here. There we go, and I'm just going to pause my track IR there for your benefit. And of course, the third thing I'm going to bring up here is I do have, as always, my FMS running on my tablet here. Of course, there it is. Of course, by the time I actually start talking, it's timed out. So there we go. So we're going to go ahead and go into the FMS system and start setting up our initialization. Routing today is MMPR-CYYZ. Alright, and we're going to program this route ourselves. I'm not going to program it in there, even though we are in a bit of a hurry. TSC, and I keep forgetting, are we 649 or 659 today? So I can check on my flight plan here, which I should have downloaded properly. 649. For some reason, I keep on wanting to call it 659. Today is Transat 649. Our alternate airport on the flight plan, you can see there is London, Ontario, with no routing specified, just London. And cost index, now it's running at a cost index of 44. Once we get airborne, I may see if we can bump that up a little bit and get there a little faster, depending on how the fuel situation is. Beautiful weather at both ends, so I'm not too worried about diverting to the alternate potentially. Cruise flight level today, 330, and at Penby, a climb to 350. Alright, and we are just going to align it on the reference airport of MMPR, so the FMS should all align nicely, and put in the flight plan. Hit this up, go to page 2, flight plan is all right down here. You guys hopefully can see that nicely. So we are looking for, let's see here, let me just do a quick weather check here in Puerto Vallarta, and we do have, oh, we had some ATC online. It looks like they just left. Darn it. A little bit too slow to get going, I guess. Alright, the wind's 270 at 4, so I don't know why it's really suggesting a departure from 04 when it seems like 20 would be, 22 would be a better bet, so that's what we're going to plan on here. We're going to plan on 22. Routing of PVR4 Alpha. It's going to be, of course, that's for the wrong runway, so PVR4 Bravo should take us to the same place, should still take us to PVR. And then MOV, and at 27 north, not 4 south latitude should be good. UJ31 to PNG. You know what? Actually, I'm doing this wrong. We have to do this. Airways. UJ31 till we get to PNG. That is correct, right? Yeah, PNG. Part of the world I'm not familiar with here, so okay, and then we go direct to San Antonio. So then that airway was good. We inserted that. After PNG comes San Antonio at, let's see here, 30 north and 98 west is the appropriate one. After San Antonio, we've got another airway. Jet 21 to CWK, which I believe is Centex. Now you're starting to get into terrain that I'm familiar with. CWK, Centex, which I believe is near Austin, and then FZT, I don't know, but we insert that one there. FZT. TXK is Texarkana, and Jet 131 to Pocket City. So TXK. And the one double check, if you're ever not sure how things are working out too, I don't know if you can see it here, but the distance. Look at the distance as you're putting these in.
The walk around, everything looks good.
Thank you. So notice the distance is 113 miles. It's pretty reasonable. If you see the distance go to like 3,000 miles, you put in the wrong waypoint or something. So it's not a total totally foolproof check, but it's just one more thing to help sort of convince yourself that you are doing things correctly. So direct to Pocket City, Papa X-Ray Victor, or sorry, Jet 131 to Pocket City, and then direct Brickyard, Carlton, Query, and the Nuber 4. Alright, so after Pocket City, we do Brickyard, Victor, Hotel, Papa. Then Carlton, and this should be at 42 north, 83 west, yep. Query, and that's where we start the Nuber 4 arrival into Toronto. So we just do CYYZ, arrival. And today we're going to estimate a landing on 05. The winds are out of the east, a little gusty.
Hey, Captain. The agents want to start sending people out. Can we start boarding?
We'll just do the query transition. I'm going to get right back to you in a second, buddy. Let me just do that before I forget. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Alright, and boarding is requested, so when we go outside we'll see that happening in a second here. Alright, so we've got the flight plan is in IF, and then I again, our ZFW, and we should see some activity happening here. So fueling is definitely happening here, slowly going up. They have only just started boarding and cargo boarding, so we won't see that yet. 69.4 for the ZFW is what I really came to the screen to look for. And 26 for the CFG, and I determined this last time that I cannot change this. That CFG is fixed by Aerosoft, and you cannot mess with it, at least as far as I could tell. I couldn't change it at all. So be it. I thought maybe you could change it here on the loading screen, but it never changes, literally never. 19 tons for the block, and that's it for the initialization performance page. We are going to do a flaps. We're going to take off towards the ocean, so I'm not too worried about the performance. Got a nice long runway. It's going to be a flaps 1 takeoff. And there we go. 150, 151, 155 at 33 degrees, and that's it. The FMS initialization is already done. It does not take very long to get that going, at least in this. Good, 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 good. All right, carrying on. Gonna close this down. I'm gonna close this down. Just gonna go and have a quick look. So we are getting the fuel there. I think that's the crew van that's just arriving down there. If I can just have a look over here, where I believe that van is gonna bring the flight crew, and then we'll get the passenger bus here soon enough. I'm not sure where the where the baggage trains are going. I'm not sure if they already loaded it or not. I don't have GSX level 2, so you won't actually see the people get out, unfortunately, to walk in. But anyways, use your imagination, guys. They're getting out and walking in. Okay, so let's continue getting ready here. Let's make sure the guidance panel is all set. Make that a little bit brighter because I like it better when it's bright. The altimeter setting here at Puerto Vallarta is 2990, pretty close to standard, looking good. Alright, and we're going to need to bring some stuff out here. Alright, before I forget anything else, I'm just going to put the auto brake to max. I'm going to come back to the guidance panel in just a second. I'm going to get this FMC going here as well, because I don't see any ATC left online. They were literally just online and they just logged off, which, you know what, it happens. It's just the way it happens. Wish I started the stream sooner. Tim, I'm using the Aerosoft Airbus Pro. So this is the 321, the Aerosoft Airbus Pro, which generally does a pretty good job with a lot of things. Doesn't really simulate failures, but for day-to-day operations, it's a good airplane. It does most of what it needs to do. It looks really nice too, I gotta say. It looks really good, and it's not ridiculously high overhead for the operation, which is good, because sometimes my computer falls down, especially with the brighter scenery. Wow. That's a lot of containers these guys are going to load up there. Alright, so the other thing I'm going to need here, come on charts page to be working, it is, good, is my departure today. So let's go ahead and type in an MMPR, that'll bring up the airport. And today we're doing the... Why can I not find my departure? Hello. Departure's runway 22. Are they all the same? Oh, it's all one sheet. Okay, I get you. So we'll add that to the clipboard. And there's my chart clip. I've got stuff from last week when we arrived. This is from a flight I did the other day, so we can get rid of that just to remove some clutter from my knee board there. The one thing is that this knee board stays the same between all your airplanes, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, you know, obviously I didn't take this one to Dallas. This was just sitting here, but I took a different Airbus to Dallas, but it's all one EFB, which is fine. It's a really good EFB overall, so I'm not going to complain too much. Alright, so it looks like this is... Okay, I think I see where the flight plan went here. So the flight plan, sorry, I'm just trying to understand what the flight plan is filed here. So the flight plan file is just to come back overhead Puerto Vallarta and then direct MOV, which is one of the possibilities on this departure here. Vallarta 4 Bravo, climb via PVR 2220 to 9 DME or 1800 in case of DME failure, then turn right within 12 miles, back to the PVR VOR and cross it according to the MCA or ATC instructions. Minimum crossing altitude. And I don't have any of these airways, so I'm going to just take the highest one and say it's got to be at least 7,000 we got to cross it at, which we should have no problem climbing up to 7,000, turning back and crossing overhead at over 7,000. And the direction is northeast bound, so 8,600 is an MSA as well. So that's how we're supposed to be doing it. Let's just make sure it's programmed in here correctly. Really quickly here. So PVR 09, and then it's supposed to be a right turn back to PVR, so I have to insert PVR there again. Nope. That didn't seem to do anything. Now I've programmed this incorrectly and it does not like me. Nope. Okay, let's see if we can do this again. Ah, Lord. The trouble with this is it's not very good for reprogramming once you mess something up. It can have a real problem here. Alright, so yes, we're going to mess with the takeoff data, but we're going to try and change this back to PVR. 4 Bravo. And it still does not want to insert PVR for me again. Does not like it. Okay. Let's try something different. Switch back to the other runway again and just do one of those other fixes. And see if I can now insert it. PVR, see if I can insert it there now. Aha, now I think it's going to work. 21 north, 105 west, that's the correct one. There it is. So now PVR is in front of MOV, and now I should be able to hopefully change this. Oop, too far. There we go. And hopefully it does not purge out that PVR I just put in there. Ah, perfect. Okay. Now it's going to do exactly the right thing. We're going to take off to PVR 9 or right back over head PVR. That's what we're supposed to do. Okay, perfect. Alright, you got to recheck that FMS and make sure it's going to do what you think it's going to do and make sure the map matches too. So have a look at your moving map and make sure it all makes sense. So now if I go to plan view as well, we can see it nicely here. We take off, we circle back, and then we end up departing this area northeast bound towards that MOV VOR, which I don't know what it is, but anyways, that looks like that's all correct now. Okay, good. Okay, the one other thing I wanted off here was, is there a top altitude for this climb out? And it doesn't actually give us a top altitude, so initially I'm going to set 7,000. Since there's no ATC to contradict me. And we'll take it from there. As we get it close to 7,000, we can keep the climb going. Alright, and I think we're just about ready for a departure briefing. We got it all programmed in there, the FMS is all set up, we'll arm the auto throttle now, we've got the max brakes, everything's retracted, everybody's off, everything's happy, we got Unicom, we got 2,000 on the transponder for now, I think we're good. Alright, how are we doing on that loading too, just to check. So the fuel, we're at 17, good, we're looking good there. And I saw that the baggage is at 80%. We got it mostly loaded there. People, I think we're about the same. What are we at here? 199 and 203. Okay, perfect. So we're almost done loading. Are you ready for the departure briefing? Are you ready for the takeoff briefing?
Ready?
There we go. He likes the word takeoff, doesn't like departure. Okay, so we are at Puerto Vallarta. We're at stand 12. We're going to push back and taxi out. First of all, actually, the speeds need to be reset because we changed the takeoff 3 times. Alright, we got one, and we'll confirm that takeoff data again now. Okay, so now the speeds are in, and we are departing today from Gate 12 here in Puerto Vallarta. It's a pretty straightforward taxi out to runway 22. It's going to be out either Foxtrot or Golf.
The passenger boarding is complete, and I've got the load sheet here for you when you're ready.
Thank you.
Have a safe flight.
So we're going to taxi out Golf and Alpha to the threshold of runway 22. No big messages or notes on this. And the SID again for all the departures off runway 22. Airport elevation is at 23 feet. No major notes here. Transition altitude is 18,500 here. And so for this one, for the Vallarta 4 Bravo departure, it's climb via PVR radial 220 to 9 DME, and then a right turn 1800 in case of DME failure, and then right turn within 12 miles to the PVR VOR and cross it according to the MCA, Alpha, or ATC instructions. So we have no ATC, so we have to use the minimum crossing altitudes here. Unfortunately, none of these are my next fix, so I'm just going to use the highest one here. We got 7,200 anyways. That's the highest crossing altitude, which I think we should be able to cross this at or above 72, and continue off northeastbound. 8,600 is the MSA in this northeast quadrant, so reality we're going to be trying to striving to get above that or even higher. So terrain, obviously, south, north, east of the field, there's terrain everywhere pretty much except straight out where the ocean is. We are going to climb out to 9 DME before the turn back. Hopefully we should be able to get enough climb performance. I'm going to keep the speed back and keep the airplane climbing until I'm sure we've made those climb restrictions, and we are going to be clear of terrain on the departure. Weather is beautiful out here. It's a lovely day. It's a shame to leave the warm weather behind. I think it's 21 degrees. It's a nice day out here. But what are you going to do? And that's about it. Operational NOTAMs. Let's have a quick look at that flight plan just to make sure there's no NOTAMs. Everything works on this airplane. So let's just have a quick look at the NOTAMs for the departure airport. Airport's closed overnight, and we're now selling Jet A1 instead of Jet A here. That's it for the NOTAMs for Puerto Vallarta. Great. I love a simple, short list of NOTAMs. Turn on the APU. I have learned that this guy can actually do stuff. I finally reread the documentation, and this guy actually can do quite a few things if you know the correct instructions. They're a bit of a pain, some of the instructions, but... Alright, just sip my coffee, and... I guess I should ask him. Any questions? Any questions?
Okay, that's checked, and no questions.
Perfect. In that case, I think we're just about ready here. We got 6 minutes to go. We're doing good. The APU is coming on, and it's slowly starting up there. And as well, we can also turn on the fast seatbelt sign because the fueling is done. It's a signal to cabin crew that the fueling is done, and away we go. So while we're waiting for the APU to start, full disclosure, I did do a complete and total reinstall of my flight sim since my last stream. I did try to do the upgrade to 4.5's hotfix 2 or 3, I think it was hotfix 2, for some software compatibility issues, and it ended up destroying some scenery. I ended up with trees, autogen trees in the middle of some lakes. So I couldn't get it to work. I ended up having to uninstall everything and reinstall everything, which is a pain in the butt. It didn't actually take that long for the uninstall and the reinstall. However, I've only reinstalled probably about 20% of my airport scenery to date. I've done all the major stuff, all the Orbex stuff is done, and the airports obviously we're using, but only about 20% of the airports have now been reinstalled, so I'm going to slowly trickle them in there. I think I've got all the aircraft mostly reinstalled. Some of the GA ones I haven't reinstalled yet, but it's all the add-ons. Reinstalling P3D is not that bad, but and I think I've reconfigured everything. Everything is reset the way it should be, but if anything goes glitchy, if any of the buttons are not working the way they are supposed to, this is just a little heads up, and beg your forgiveness, but it's because I have not... I have done a few test flights, but it's because I did a total reinstall and wiped away some of the settings and some of the stuff that should be happening. I think I've done a few test flights, so I think everything is reset again. On the other hand, everything seems to run a little faster and smoother again now, so that's always good. Alright, let's get this going here. Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
Please disconnect external power.
Roger, disconnecting the GPU.
Alright, so we're running on APU power now. We're just going to get him to disconnect the GPU, and I think we're just about ready to go. So we can probably cut this back by 2 more
Ground
minutes.
cockpit.
Go ahead.
All right, Captain, we're removing the jetway now.
Thank you.
Captain, the GPU is now disconnected.
Thank you. See, the jetways don't seem to work, but the stairs seem to work. The stairs, there they are, they're being pulled away without me having to do anything. So that's good. Generally, the GSX integration works really well here, but occasionally I run into a few little minor problems.
Alright guys, everyone's seated. We're all buttoned up and ready to go in the back.
Thank you.
If you need anything, just let me know.
Before start checklist to the line.
Before start checklist, down to the line. Cockpit prep.
Complete.
Completed. Gears, pins, and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On.
ADIRS.
Nav.
Fuel quantity.
19 tons.
Takeoff data.
Set.
Baro ref.
2990 set.
2990. Cross-checked. Set. Okay, before start checklist, completed to the line.
Before start procedures.
Okay.
Alright, here comes GSX. And we're just going to take a real quick glance over at VATSIM and see what's going on, if there's anybody in the vicinity, but it looks like we're the only ones here at Port Vallarta, so that's fine. We can make that work. There's one inbound, but he's a good probably 30 to 45 minutes out, so not too much to worry about.
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
Before start checklist below the line.
Before start checklist, below the line. Windows and doors.
Closed.
Closed. Beacon.
Locking gear.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
Set.
Before start checklist complete.
Checked. Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
We are ready for engine start.
Okay, all the doors and hatches are closed. The beacon is rotating. Engine intakes are clear. The chocks have been removed. You're clear to start all engines.
Thank you.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted. Release parking brakes. Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Start engine 2. I do have to say I'm getting better at integrating. Oh, you know what I did? And I always forget to do this. APU bleed on, otherwise not much is going to happen. But I am getting better at integrating GSX and FS2 crew together and getting them to sort of complement each other, which is a little bit challenging at times. You have to really sort of, it's taken some trial and error to figure out how to best integrate the two, but I've gotten pretty good at it now, and they do complement each other very nicely, and especially in this airplane where GSX is so tightly integrated with the airplane itself. It's it really is a bit of a joy, I have to say, to actually see it work so well, and I wish all the other developers would get on board with this, with having the loading be directly controlled from within the airplane, the fueling, tightly, like I said, tightly integrated. Like all I do is I put in the fuel load here, call for the fuel truck, he shows up and does it himself. I notice the auto thrust is again not armed. I'm gonna rearm that again. He probably tried to arm it a second time. All right, good start on 2. Starting engine 1.
Waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
Alright, the brakes are set. You guys are clear to disconnect, and we'll just stand by on the engine start here. And Tim, I see that you are my first subscriber, so thank you, sir. Recently managed to make it into the affiliate level here on Twitch, which allows me to make a little bit of revenue, so I appreciate it, guys. partly because I'm out of work right now, and basically any revenue that I do make through these platforms, through my streaming, through my YouTube videos, any revenue that does end up being made is going to be turned right around back into this hobby. It's not going to be something I'm going to keep personally. It's just going to enable me to expand my offerings in this hobby a little bit more, and hopefully give you guys a bit more to look at, a few more new airplanes and scenery to watch here and there. Alright, I think we got a good engine start. We can dismiss the GSX. You are clear to disconnect and go to hand signals.
Alright, you'll have a safe flight.
So that is my plan. I am probably going to make some revenue out of my channels in the future. However, it's just all it's going to do is display some of the spending here. And probably it's going to be a little while before I make enough revenue to even actually receive a payment. And one thing I have sworn that I will do with that first payment is a good portion of it, if not all of it, depending on how much the payment is going to be donated to a number of different virtual organizations that have helped to make this hobby great. So I'm not going to name any names at this point, but I have decided that all that from that first paycheck, I'm going to definitely make some donations to various groups that have done hard work and deserve it. Probably top of my list would be another donation to SimBrief, because it's fantastic that they keep it going. And another organization as well, depending on how it plays out, but SimToolKitPro that I showed up last time was a great piece of software, and I'm going to probably continue to show it off. Going to continue to use it, and as long as it keeps on improving, I'm probably going to make a contribution to that. Also on my list is probably my favorite virtual airline, which is Canadian Express. For anyone who hasn't been a member, it's a great virtual airline, very flexible. It doesn't have a whole lot of rules of where you have to fly, but what they do have is a lot of neat group activities, tours, and a lot of good airplanes as well that they have paint jobs for. So I've always been happy to be a member. I think they do some great jobs to help support this hobby. Anywho, they are waving us off, so let's go ahead and continue with after start procedures. After start procedures.
Check.
So the ignition back
Flaps
to normal.
1 plus F.
Complete off. Don't need the anti-ice. AP master off. Alright, after start checklist. After start checklist.
Okay, after start checklist. Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
1 up set. 1 up set. 1 up set.
Rudder trim.
0. 0.
After start checklist complete.
Every time it doesn't know what to think. Flight control check.
Ready? Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
And I just need a little seat camera angle adjustment. All clear on the left. Clear on the left.
Clear on the right.
Puerto Vallarta traffic, Transat 65. Keep wanting to call it 659er. Puerto Vallarta traffic Transat 649er is at the terminal, taxiing for departure runway 22 back overhead the field for northeastbound departure. Alright, so this should be Gulf Taxiway right here. Really short, simple taxi out today. But I do like this scenery. This has got to be one of the nicer sceneries I've seen lately, and maybe it's just because I like a tropical environment. I just want to be in a nice, warm, tropical environment, so that's why I'm liking it. I'm very used to North American scenery, and it's a lot of, but it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. This is to me is very foreign territory, but I like it. It looks beautiful. I would love to come visit here. I think this would be a great place to come visit. I learned a few new things. Set nose light to taxi. 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 Oh, for crying out loud, fine, I'm gonna do it myself.
Flight
It
deck.
should work, but it doesn't.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Captain, the captain is secure.
Checked. And in that case, before takeoff checklist to the line.
Are you sure about that?
Before takeoff checklist to the line.
Before takeoff checklist down to the line. Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. Briefing.
Confirmed.
Flap setting.
Config 1 plus F.
Config 1 plus F. V1, VR, V2 flex temp.
V1 150. VR 151. V2 155. Flex temp is 33 degrees.
V1 is 150. V rotate is 151. V2 is 155. And for the flex temp, we have 3 degrees. ATC.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff no blue.
Before takeoff checklist complete to the line.
Alright, looks clear both ways. Before takeoff checklist below the line.
Before takeoff checklist below the line. Cabin crew.
Cabin crew seats for departure. Advised.
TCAS.
TARA.
Engine mode selector.
Norm.
PAX.
On.
Okay, before takeoff checklist is complete.
Checked. Actually, before I do anything else, let's just have a quick look and just make sure that this does say that we are flight progress and flight. Okay, good. It did trigger. Wouldn't want that to not trigger. That would be annoying. Alright. Get this ready to go here. Oh, just want to drag it down to the bottom corner because it's more natural down there, I think. Takeoff.
Check. Thrust set. .100 knots.
Checked.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up. Gear up. Ignition, 2, 2, 1, set.
Autopilot on.
Autopilot 1 on.
I'm going to leave it in heading mode for a moment, just because I want to make sure we make it to that 9 DME point. Flaps retract.
Flap 0.
And we're going to pull it to manual speed and let it climb at about 240. And here comes the 9 DME point. There it is. Alright, we'll do the right turn right back to PVR. Sometimes I don't trust this. I've done a few departures out of Toulouse, and it's the same thing. It's a right turn back to pretty much overhead the airport. And sometimes this airplane wants to turn the wrong direction. So that was just my fat fingers. Don't mind that. So I'm going to put us on 040 heading for now, and in a second I'm going to give us direct back to the VOR. After takeoff checklist to the line.
After takeoff checklist, down the line. Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Packs.
On.
After takeoff checklist completed, to the line.
Making a very shallow turn here. Alright, so next we'll do, because we're definitely around the right side there. That's why I wanted us to start early, so we stayed within that 12 DME. That's why.
$1,000 to go.
Alright. Try 050 heading, and we'll crank this up now to our cruise altitude of 330. Alright, still keeping that 240 knots for now as we turn back inbound here, but I think we're going to easily hit that. Yeah, 050 should be pretty good, I think, to get us back to PVR. And now we're coming back around. Now you're going to get a nice view of the whole bay here. So there's the airport right there in the middle. There's the airport right there in the middle, and you can see the hotels both sides, more on the south side there off the right. And if I shove this in into lateral mode, is it just going to go straight to PVR? I hope. I think that's what it's going to do. We'll watch it. We'll make sure it does what it's supposed to. I think it's going to. Okay, now we've cleared 8,000. I believe it was 8,600 was the altitude on the SID for that sector. Yep. Once we cleared 8,600, we'll go ahead and go to a normal climb. Now, where's it going? I'm a little worried if it doesn't start coming back in a second. Yeah. For whatever reason, it does not like what it's doing here, so... Unfortunately, we're just going to have to do direct to MOV, because otherwise it doesn't seem to want to work. As it is, I still cannot get the lateral mode to engage here. It's just going to continue to fly in heading mode. Why? Oh, Airbus, I hate you so much sometimes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and switch to manage speed, manage climb. It says we're in nav mode. Why is it still showing me a heading then? Alright, it says it's in nav mode. And there's a nice overhead view of Puerto Vallarta as we go by. Beautiful. What a nice scenery to come and visit, I gotta say. That was really nice. And PAXIM has done a pretty good job of capturing the feel of the place with all these big hotels along the lakefront dominating over everything else. There, now I think we're established. It's weird that it's still showing me a heading though. I thought it was, there it goes, now it blanked out. Okay. Alright, so now we are in managed mode, we're in managed speed, managed navigation, managed climb. Everything is being managed by the airplane. Okay. I can sit back and relax now. The trouble is you can never really sit back and relax because sometimes you just can't trust these airplanes. But we're through 10,000 feet, so let's make sure that all the lights are off. Looks like a beautiful day here, so go ahead. Take the seatbelts off there. People can get up and move around as much as they want. And that's it. We're on our way, guys. We're on our way back to Toronto. Farewell to the beautiful tropical scenery. We will get to admire it for a little while longer, but unfortunately we're not going to stay. We're just going to keep flying back over you on our way back to Toronto. A bit disappointing, but what are you going to do? But we will have another tropical destination later in our schedule. I believe it's after the Schiphol turn. So next is a Schiphol turn, which is going to require the 330. After that, I believe we do a Punta Cana turn, and that's going to be fun. Does it still say I'm headed to CYVR? Or did I just type the wrong thing? Which is always possible. Thanks, Tim. There we go. That should hopefully fix my stream title. Sorry, guys. As Tim pointed out, the stream title said I was heading to Vancouver, but in actual fact, we're heading to Toronto. So, if you hit reload on it now, it will be correct, and what can I say? I'm only human. I make mistakes. I changed it. I thought I had changed it to Toronto, but obviously I was more distracted by other things I was doing. But there we go. Back over the mountains. It looks like we're going to clear all these mountains, no problem here. We do have terrain on the nav display. The highest terrain right now within range is 8,400 feet, and we're climbing through 12 and continuing to climb, so I think we're good that way. And let's see here. Right now we're not showing a whole lot of fuel when we get to Toronto. I gotta say, 2.8 is not much. We may have to even roll the cost index back rather than forward. Flight plan says Toronto, we should show up with, well, 2.6, 2.7. So we have pretty much the minimum amount of fuel when we show up to Toronto. I had planned 20 minutes extra originally. I don't know if that extra departure process burned off some extra fuel, or if it's just because we don't have the winds yet compensated for, which is probably more than likely the case. We're going to catch a bit of a tailwind as we get up over about the mid-United States for, a couple hundred miles. What have we got here? Just under 2,000 miles to go. Yeah, about the middle 500 to 700 miles, we're going to pick up a bit more of a tailwind, so that should hopefully get us back some of our fuel. I have not put in any of the winds yet into the FMS. I'm not sure if it makes a difference in this FMS, but I'm curious. Gonna wait till we get a little closer to cruise, and then we'll have to check it. Let's see, how are we doing here? Total air temperature still 23. We're at almost 15,000 feet, and the outside air temperature is just now reaching 0 degrees. I would love to fly in this tropical terrain more often, although it's not good for your airplane's performance, I'll tell you that much. It makes a real noticeable difference to some of these airplanes. Some airplanes more than others. Some airplanes it's amazing how much they are impacted by the heat, but you get like a nice hot sticky day, 30, 35 degrees, and the airplanes they don't leap off the runway, they just sort of meander up into the air slowly and try and make their way skywards. And then you go back to winter and you're like, wow, I can't believe how well these airplanes perform with the cold air, but there is a huge difference between the cold and the hot air, and you'll notice it. Now, it might also be exacerbated by the fact that usually in the summer, the loads are fuller. There's usually more people traveling in summer, so the airplanes are even fuller in the summer, and that makes them even heavier, but you do notice a difference in terms of lower performance on those hot days. And this wasn't even all that hot. It was only 21 degrees, I believe, down here today, so it wasn't even that hot for this region of the world. But compared to what we're dealing with in Canada still, where it's still, if we crack 10 degrees, we're lucky. I think we cracked 10 degrees today, but not by much. We had one nice day last week, and that was that was the sum total of our spring-like weather thus far. really kind of waiting for the spring to really take off in a big way. It was so nice. We got out all the patio furniture and sat out there for one day, and then the next day it was back to being cold again. Oh well. And I see Aiden Stevens as well subscribed with Twitch Prime, so Tim and Aiden, thank you both very much for subscribing to my channel. I do appreciate it. As I said before, any revenue that I make in these channels is going to go purely back into supporting this hobby and supporting me, supporting the developers. You know, paying the developers for putting out good airplanes, good scenery, trying out new airplanes, new scenery for you guys, trying out new software, and also supporting some of the free systems out there that, as I said, virtual airlines, some of the developers that distribute their software for free and ask for a donation in response. And you know what? I support that model wholeheartedly, because I haven't run into it a whole lot lately, but I have in my life wasted money on things that were not what they at first appeared to be, whether it was software, whether it was other things. And especially in software where you cannot get your money back. There, it's flashing at me, alright. After takeoff checklist below the line.
After takeoff checklist below the line. Aero ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff checklist is complete.
Checked. Especially in the software world, I really appreciate a free trial of software, because the trouble with software is that once you have purchased it, you can very seldom get a refund on it. There are exceptions, of course, but generally you can't get a refund on software once you've purchased it, because how is the developer, the seller, to know that you didn't claim for a refund and left it installed on your computer anyways? Which I understand that, but that's why I think that the free trial system, either free trial or demo version software, is important, I think, because it's important to understand that you're getting a value for your money. And certain things where people charge a lot of money up front, I'm very hesitant to spend that money up front in case it's not worth it. It depends on the situation. It depends on the developer too. Some developers you have a lot of faith in that they're doing things right. Other developers not so much. But is the software going to do what you want it to do? And that's really the question at the end of the day. Is it going to work for what I need? Is it going to do what I want to do? And so, software that gives out free demos, or gives it away for free and asks for a donation in return, especially in this hobby where people are very small organizations that are, and by small, oftentimes it is one person working on a system. And I'm just thinking of SimBrief as my example, but it's not the only example by far. But they don't have a lot of people supporting them in terms of numbers, in terms of volume. So we all do need to take that time to support these people who are doing this, putting the software out there. Any software that's free software that you value, donate to it, because you never know when the guy's going to suddenly decide that it's not worth it anymore. He's put in a lot of time, doesn't see a whole lot of return on his investment time, and a lot of these things are a labor of love, and people will keep doing them as long as they love them. But it's not. I think you need to know that you're going to get value for your money. So I have no problem with this whole. We'll give you the software for free. Please donate. And I think a lot of people do. I think this is a community that realizes that more than any others. That a lot of people are contributing a lot of time personally, for a very small return. It's not like you're ever going to make enough money probably on SimBrief or on on a logbook tracker or any kind of website or organizing virtual airline. You're never going to make money back on that. So, and I think the whole community realizes that as a whole. So we are happy to contribute to these people, because we've seen plenty of projects come and go over the years too, things that have not been well supported. Either the developers have perhaps not been upfront with the community when they're developing the software, and things have not worked out the way people have expected, or people just have moved on in life. When people are young, they often have lots of free time, whether they're students or maybe just starting out in the world and they don't have a very big career yet. Maybe they don't even have a job in their focused field. They just have a job, and so they do. They have time to contribute. And then you start to have busier jobs, bigger careers, more families, and people lose the time to contribute. and especially if they don't feel like they're getting, I won't say return on their investment, but if they feel like people don't appreciate their contribution, they'll stop doing it. So think of all the websites that you enjoy on a daily basis that are free, and just think for a minute about how that's supported and how would you get by without them? Would you be disappointed if they disappeared? You know, and I'm not saying you have to go out there and run and donate to everybody, but think about the ones that are important to you that you would really truly miss if they were gone. SimBrief, again, always comes to the top of my list as a fantastic, such a well-organized website that needs to be supported. And I'm sure most of you probably already have, but it's just the one that comes to the front of my mind. It's like if they went offline, there is no immediate replacement. There's no competition. They fulfill a very unique niche, but they do it so well. I couldn't even imagine trying to fly these flights without them. Some of these airplanes, I think Aerosoft does include a rudimentary flight planner with their aircraft, but their focus is not on the flight planning aspect. Their focus is on the aircraft itself. So the flight planner is enough to get you how much fuel do I need to get to destination, alternate, etc. But not necessarily that realistic. SimBrief is a pretty unique system. I know there's PFPX out there which people can pay for in advance and get the use out of it, but otherwise there's very few other options for realistic flight planning. So anyways, make sure you guys support any software, any websites, any developers that are doing good things that you really enjoy, because you never know when they're going to disappear. I read today that Turbulent Designs has now decided that they're going to cease producing software for flight simulation. They put together a couple of airports. They put together the TerraFlora, I think it is, software so that improves the trees and bushes and all the the greenery for your sim. And they just put out a second package, and then now they've announced that they're getting out of the flight sim business. It's distracting them, I guess, from other things that they focus on. So those products will continue to be supported for the future, but they've decided to get out of the game. They don't feel like it's. You'll have to talk to them about why, but I guess basically it came down to they make different software for a number of different reasons, and the flight simulation was distracting them from their primary goals, I guess. So Tim asks if I've upgraded to P3D version 5 yet. The answer is at this point no. I've talked about this in previous streams. I'm contemplating a little more seriously now than I have before. The reason I'm kind of holding off is because there's also the new Microsoft Flight Simulator on the horizon. I'm probably not going to purchase both, so I'm kind of waiting to see where the Flight Sim 2020 platform lands in terms of cost, in terms of performance, in terms of support for all the different add-ons. Whether I'm going to transition out of the P3D platform, maybe onto the Microsoft Flight Sim platform, or maybe I will upgrade to P3D version 5. I'm not usually a huge early adopter when it comes to new software, especially in flight simulation. There are certain things that I have gone out there early on and gotten into, but for the most part, I'm more of a restrained, sit back, let other people try it out, see what works really well, and then move on to it myself. That's normally the way I like to function with flight simulation. I know what works on my computer. My computer's a little better than it used to be, but I know it has limitations. So I know what works on my computer, so I tend to stick with what works. But that being said, I was told that version 5 does improve your frame rate quite a bit at some of the heavier airports, because it moves on to, I believe it's DirectX version 12, which better supports splitting, managing resources between your CPU and your GPU, which is generally where P3D has fallen down in the past as part of the Flight Sim platform, is that it favored the CPU over the GPU just because of its heritage. That's what used to be important to it, because we used to have very weak GPUs and powerful CPUs by comparison. But now the GPU is often a more powerful processor than the CPU, but this software, the back end of the P3D software, is not kept up with it. But apparently that's what happens now in version 5, is it's because it better balances the load between both. Because of the use of DirectX 12, you'll generally see an improvement in frame rates, even if the scenery's not great. So that is a good reason to upgrade. That is working on me slowly. Unfortunately, due to my employment situation, I'm probably not going to be doing that until I am sure of going back to work. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be earning the minimum wage supplement for the time being, which is not terrible. While I wait for this the aviation industry to take off again. but unfortunately that could go on for a while. So I'm a little bit unsure about where we're going to end up in the future. So anyways, I'm trying to restrain the spending. P3D version 5, it's on my list of things I'd love to try, and it probably will be something I move into later, but I still want to find out more about Microsoft Sim as well. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I do like the P3D platform overall. Yes, the scenery is sometimes dated, although when you get into Orbex, it really does some nice updates to the sim, and it really does look quite good. But also the sim functions really well. I have a lot of add-ons for it. They all work together. They play together really nicely right now. And without knowing a lot more about how the add-on compatibility, especially the airplanes, I imagine the airports are going to slide into Flight Simulator 2020 pretty easily for the most part, I would think. I can't see that being a huge problem. Where I see the huge problem is more the airplanes themselves, which are much deeper simulations that require much more, you know, hooking into the guts of the sim. And so when the guts of the sim are changed, how well are these airplanes going to function on that platform? That's something to think about in the future anyways. Alright, just a quick check here. Showing an arrival at 5:38 in Toronto today. It's gonna be at least it'll still be a daytime arrival. I'm going to do my best to avoid a nighttime streaming, because that last nighttime landing I did in Vancouver, I did not realize how dark the stream gets. It's darker than it shows up on the monitor here, so I did not realize how completely dark that was when I was streaming it. One thing I noticed too is that it's got a bit of a blue tinge to it. I don't still have the filter on, do I? Nope, it's not on. This was my night filter, which just makes everything paler. It just mostly increases the gamma correction, just to try and put a little bit more, make it a little easier to see things at night. But it's just funny because it looks a little bit bluer on the stream than it does. The airplane's more gray than blue. Alright, we're going to get that ice protection on because we're climbing through a cloud layer here. And we're back to this again too. I've seen this issue before. It seems to happen every couple of times, where for whatever reason the cabin altitude doesn't start climbing after takeoff, and so the pressure differential maxes out eventually. So our cabin altitude is still at minus 150 feet after takeoff and has not gone up since then. And everything is functioning correctly as far as you can tell. It won't do anything, it won't trigger any alarms. It's some kind of a glitch with the Airbus, the Aerosoft Airbus. I've seen this a couple times now. If you look at the bleed page screen here, you can see all the bleed air is coming into the system. All the valves are open, everything should be coming into the system. Hot air is coming into the system, but for whatever reason, the cabin never climbs. I've seen that before. It's happened. It happens every couple of times I fly these airplanes. It's happened probably 3 or 4 times, I think. There's still some glitches within this software. The 320, though, I generally like it. I think it's a fairly rugged piece of software overall. The 330, which we're going to use on the next leg, I have a few issues with. And I'm not sure, some of it, if it's FS2 crew working with the 330 or not. I think some of it might be FS2 crew related. A few things kind of get hung up and don't work properly until you manually intervene, which is why I think some of it is the FS2 crew stuff. But I'm also a little bit worried about doing that next flight in the 330, only because it seems to be a bit of a crash-happy airplane. And that's a little bit unfortunate. I have only managed to successfully complete a handful of flights in Aerosoft's A330. Especially long-haul stuff, it seems to like to crash the sim, and I'm not sure why. I've looked at the crash logs, and it all seems to be kind of terrain related. It seems to be the kind of random terrain related crashes that you get every once in a while. The trouble is that it happens to the 330 more than any other airplane. So there's something with the way the 330 is loaded, is using up memory, something where it has a little bit of a propensity to crash the sim. And I hate to blame Aerosoft because, you know, they put a lot of effort into it, and it's one of those things that is becoming very difficult to track down. And if you look at the crash log, it indicates that it's part of the sim that the airplane shouldn't be touching, which I agree with that logic. My only problem with that logic is the coincidence is that it only seems to happen when I fly the 330. I can fly the 777, I can fly the 47 from PMDG without any issues. I can fly them for hours, for 8, 10, 12 hours across the Atlantic out to Dubai, you know, long flights, never has a problem. The 330, I've had crashes at all sorts of random places, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours into the flight. I had one the other day while we were in descent, and it was so frustrating because we'd done a 6.5 hour flight, and then we're in the descent, and you think you've almost made it, and then boom, the sim just disappears. And I hate to blame Aerosoft for that because it seems like it should be a sim issue, but the only problem I have is that it only seems to happen when I'm flying the 330, and that's where I'm a little bit nervous about the next leg. I'm worried that when I do this next leg, Toronto to Schiphol in the 330, I'm worried that somewhere halfway through the stream, it's going to crash, and all that progress is going to be lost, and I'm going to be very frustrated at that point. So here's hoping that does not happen. I'm going to probably do a couple more flights in the 330. I've turned down a couple of scenery settings a little bit to see if that helps the situation. And I'm going to try a few more flights in the 330 between now and next week when we're supposed to do this stream to see if I can get it to work a little better without crashing the sim so reliably, because it shouldn't be the airplane triggering it, but for some reason it only happens when I'm flying that airplane. So there's something about the way that airplane interacts with the rest of the sim that is causing the rest of the sim to crash, and it's unfortunate and it's frustrating because especially if I'm going to be doing a stream, I would like to, I'd like it to be reliable. I'd like to get there. I'd hate to do half a stream and then have it crash out and have to start the stream again. That would be a disappointment. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited though. I've got the Fly Tampa Amsterdam scenery, and it looks really good. So I'm excited for that long haul flying. Going to earn a lot of money on my pilot's life paycheck flying those flights. So that's also kind of exciting. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to make it, and the sim's going to crash halfway, and I may have to skip those legs if that's the case. And if that's the case, then so be it. But I'd rather not have that be the case. I'd like to keep going. If that's possible, I'd like to keep the sim going as much as possible. Anyways, we'll see what happens. If it crashes probably the first time, I probably won't try it a second time. I'll probably just end up skipping the leg. As disappointing as that will be, I can only, especially for 8-hour legs, I can only have the sim crash so many times before I give up. But that next leg is also going to be a bit of a challenge, just for the fact that it is going to be, a 7 to 8 hour leg. How I'm going to squeeze that into a simming day, I'm not really sure, especially if you want to try and do the daytime arrival into Amsterdam. If we will require either a really early start or a really late night start with an early arrival into Amsterdam, I think probably the strategy I'm leaning towards is a pretty early start. Probably start at like 8 in the morning and hope to get there by I think it'll work out to probably about 8 p.m. in Amsterdam by the time we get there. Might be kind of getting dark by that point, but I think that's the only way I'm going to get that stream in during complete daylight hours, maybe even a little earlier than 8 a.m. It might be a really early start. You guys can always just come and watch the stream after the fact if you don't want to log on at 7 a.m. to watch the stream. Haven't made up my mind 100%, but I think that's what I'm leaning towards. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to do this long haul flying. I was excited about it at first, and then I thought about the practicality of it, of how I'm going to get from point A to point B in a realistic time frame. So that's going to be intriguing anyways. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how we're going to achieve it necessarily. It's a pity that we're stuck above the cloud layer now. We don't get to see any of the scenery in Mexico. I imagine it won't continue on forever, but slowly eking our way up that last little bit here. Wow. And then as we got up here, it looks like we got, I don't know if we got a bit of a tailwind, but definitely got some time knocked off. Or some, we didn't get much time knocked off. We got our fuel up anyways. Fuel over the destination's at 5.6 now, which is better. We knocked off a few minutes there. What I could do then is I can play with the cost index a little bit, because I'd like to get it there a little bit faster if the fuel will permit me. So what we can do is we've got up there on number 2 FMS, we'll leave the flight plan page, and if we change the init page here, and I've done this a few times, 75 cost index takes 2 minutes off, takes a little bit of fuel off. What if we double this up to 150 on the cost index? That'll
1,000 to go.
checked. 99, I think, is the max cost index on this one. So some cost indexes go up to like 1,000, and some of them only go up to 100. Oops. Let's see if I can put in 100 per cost index. It's this bad format, which means probably 99 is full on cost index. Oh, look, we're nicely above the clouds now, though. Alright, let's get that anti-ice off. That'll help save some gas. We don't need it if we're scraping the tops here. Alright, had somebody just come and ask me for some batteries, so I had to go and provide some Xbox batteries. Okay, back to the airplane here, just leveling 330. You can hear the power coming back. Now I wonder, I hate this tray, I really do. I just feel like it's always in my way. Now I wonder if we put in the average wind from our sim brief flight plan here, our average wind today of 296 at 39, and see if that makes much of a difference to the end game here. And that's at 330. Alright, so again, we got 2133 and 5.2. Doesn't seem to make much of a difference at the end of the day. Didn't seem to make much of a difference on the plan there. So I wasn't sure if that was actually going to make a calculation difference. I know in the PMDG, the FMS does take those wind calculations into consideration. It's a very advanced FMS. I think this one's a little bit more simplistic, so it doesn't quite take those into consideration, but that's okay. Alright, here we are, level 330 in cruise, ready for... Here, what time is it now? We got about 3 hours and 45 minutes. Actually, look at that. It did take it into consideration. Look at that. It did take a few minutes for it to calculate, but it did, 21:29. It took about 6 minutes off there. So with the planned wind in there, it took another couple of minutes, 4 minutes, I guess, off there. But so the planned wind did have an impact on the flight plan. So it does. It just takes a minute to recalculate. It doesn't show you that it's calculating while it's doing it. It just suddenly changes. So interesting. Good. I'm glad that does take that into consideration, because especially on the longer haul flights, it becomes more and more important for you to have accurate numbers. You know, you're talking like a 6 to 8 hour flight. Having accurate winds makes a big difference. If your winds are wrong, you know, you may end up being short on fuel by the time you get to your destination, or way over, and the fuel number isn't accurate until you actually get there. So it is important to put in those winds, especially on a longer leg. So something 3 to 4 hours, absolutely. On a short leg, 1 to 2 hours, usually the wind's not going to make that much of a difference over the course of that whole flight, that it's going to make a big difference on the bottom line. But yeah, a 3 to 4 hour leg, you want to have some kind of wind input in there. Ideally, we should have wind really at every waypoint, which I think we can do. I believe this does make allowance for it, yep. So right now, at our present position, it has our wind, and then basically it has planned our wind for the remaining segments. So let's go to the flight plan and see if we can do this. I'm going to play with this airplane a little bit more and see how powerful it really truly is, see if it can do it or not. So here are the winds, the upper winds for the various fixes along our flight. So MOV, we should have 286 at 26. Let's see if we can do this here. 286 at 26. And it did not like that. Aha, interesting, okay. Now let's see if I can change it at P and G here. If it's going to have one wind for the whole time, or if it's going to allow us to put in different winds at different points. 288 at 29. So in theory, you should be able to put in the wind at each point. It'll kind of calculate a continuous average in between. The fact that it's big now makes me think that it did work. Let's check. 286 at 26, 288 at 29. Haha. And we're getting slowly more realistic. Not more realistic, but more precise in our predictions. So San Antonio, 283 at 37. 283 at 37. That's what I said, right? San Antonio, 283 at 37. Yep. And it'll slowly keep on adjusting and recalculating as we pick up more tailwind here. Haha. So it does work. Oh, good. I was not sure. I have never tried this before in this FMS. So let's go ahead and continue along. Centex 283 at 38. Centex 283 at 38. So by default, it's at what I set on the overall winds page for the flight plan, but then I can change it for each individual waypoint, which is great. And then it gives you just that much more of a realistic ETA and fuel burn for your destination. FZD 291 at 58. FZD 291 at 58. 291. And especially as the wind is really shifting in the midpoint of this flight, that's going to really start to make a difference, because that's going to be it's going to be kind of a crosswind, a little bit, I think, of a tailwind component. As we go even a little further along, and it's going to swing around, and it doesn't really swing that much to our advantage. I'm just looking across here, and the winds are all still more or less out of the 300s the whole time, so it's becoming more precise. It's not necessarily helping us that much, because the wind is increasing in strength, but it's mostly crosswind, not pushing us towards the destination. But we can still continue. Texarkana 298 at 83. At Texarkana 298 at 83. 298 at 83. 298 at 83 in Texarkana. Little Rock 301 at 108. Little Rock 301 at 108. At 108. Now we're getting more time again added. Alright, I'm not going to bother with all of these fixes in here. I'm going to skip the Pocket City. Because these are just all on the airway. There's way too many of them. 349 in Pocket City. Pocket City. 349 at Pocket City. I think my mouse is starting to run out of batteries again because it seems to be getting a little jumpy. 349. Now, I wonder if there's Brickyard is going to be 325 and 27. Nope. I thought maybe you could use the arrow keys to scroll through 325 and 27, but you can't. So you have to go back out and then go back in, because logically one would think you could maybe scroll to the next waypoint, you know, using the up or down arrows to scroll to the next previous waypoint to help you put these things in, but no. There we go. At least the cloud deck is breaking up a little bit. See a little bit of this central Mexican scenery here. Unfortunately not too much ATC online yet. Pity, but what can you do? I think we're going to come to the U.S.-Mexican border here in a little bit here. One thing we can always do is go ahead and check out the live map in my SimToolKitPro. That will help you guys figure out where we are here. Nope, we are not in Dallas. Where are we? Here we are. Central Mexico. MOV, and then, yeah, PNG. I guess it's right near Eagle Pass there. That's pretty much where we're going to cross the border into the United States, which looks like we have some Houston ATC online, so we can give them a call in a little bit. Just cut the corner up to Chicago Center as well, which is also online, but we're not going to cut that corner for about 3 hours, so no worries about that. And anyway, so we got most of the winds in there. How many more waypoints? Carlton, I think, is the last waypoint that really matters, because then after that we're pretty much on the arrival. So Carlton, 333 at 24. Put that one in, 333 at 24. So it's good to know that this actually does work, that it does take into account the winds. It does make a recalculation every time you put in a new more wind data to make this ETA just that much more realistic. Even with the cost index right up at 99 right now, we're pretty much running almost at the red line here, and it's not making too much of a difference to our ETA. We're still basically 530 for our ETA, which is about 5.3 fuel on board, so we got quite a bit of extra fuel at least when we get there. Oh, one little cloud here. Got this one little white area out here, and I wonder if that's like a salt flat or something. I am not familiar with Mexico at all. 100% not familiar with Mexico, so Laguna de Viesca, which looks like the symbols for like marshland, so I wonder if it is like a salt marsh perhaps, and that's why it's white. Parts of the world that I have never been to, so feel free to fill me in on if anybody out there knows what that is. I'm going to guess that that is a salt flat, because that's pretty much exactly the right shape. Now, one person asked me in a previous stream if I had ever considered the FSLabs Airbus instead of the Aerosoft, because I do make a lot of comparisons to PMDG, which I kind of consider to be the gold standard that most developers should aspire to, and so someone made the comment that I should also consider FSLabs to be that gold standard as well, and I do kind of consider them to be that gold standard in terms of the level of fidelity of their simulation. They do put together an Airbus, from what I understand, that is extremely realistic, that all the systems interact together properly and are well modeled. You can fail things in the aircraft and the aircraft responds appropriately. What I have read is that it's also a bit of a performance hog, possibly more than the PMDG aircraft. It may be one of the slowest airplanes out there just because of the level of realism worked into the airplane, which is great. Like I have no problem, and that's usually what I like. But the reason why you'll never see an FSLabs airplane in my sim is due to the whole debacle with the malware being installed through the FSLabs installer. And that whole debacle, and not just that debacle itself, but then also how FSLabs came out and reacted to it when they were called out on it. And I think that spoke volumes as well. And that 100% their reaction to other people talking about it made up my mind that I will never, ever give a single cent to FSLabs. That their policies and their attitude towards the community and towards people in general, I cannot in any way, shape, and form support it. So they are, as far as I'm concerned, they are never going to be a possibility as a developer. And certainly as far as my sim is concerned, their aircraft will never end up in my sim at all. And there are two reasons behind that. The first is, of course, as I said, the fact that they even went as far as to put malware in there. I understand that piracy is a problem. I understand that, and I understand that you guys work hard on your projects, and I understand the frustration that all the developers probably get for seeing their hard work put out there for people to download freely without paying a cent for it and getting all the benefit of it without ever having contributed to the bottom line of the organization and to the people who actually created the software. And I get that. I really do. And I don't condone it. I don't think it's that should happen. But there are ways to deal with it, and creating problems for your legitimate users is definitely no way to deal with it. Willfully installing malware into your installer to try and catch a handful, one person I guess really in particular they were trying to get after, and they put this in their installer and put it out there to download, and many people installed it. And supposedly if your serial number was validated, the malware was going to be deleted as soon as the serial number was validated correctly against their list. But the very fact that you put the malware on there in the first place is a huge no-no in software development, because you don't know at what point the installation is going to break. What if the person's computer crashes? What if the power goes off just at the moment that the installation is almost done and the serial number's been validated but the malware hasn't been removed yet? And the malware ends up living on that computer and someone else can find out and get access to it. It's a pretty small hypothetical, but it's not impossible for that sort of thing to happen. We should all be doing our best to prevent malware from getting to computers in the first place, not, oh, we'll put it on there and then we'll delete it after the fact. That is very poor software design. It's a very poor way to fight piracy, and I think it shows very little respect for your users. I know you were supposed to remove it, but it should never have gone out in those installers in the first place. That right there is a huge no-no. I know piracy is bad, and I know we should be trying not to have piracy, but messing with people's computers like this, they may have their financial information on their home PC that you could be compromising. So that right there is a huge no-no. But then the second thing is to go and then they tried to silence anybody who spoke out about it. And that right there really puts the company in a bad light. They got caught. They got caught doing something they shouldn't have. And yes, they were doing it was for a noble cause. It was to try and fight piracy. It wasn't because they were trying to go after most of their users. They were just trying to catch one particular pirate. But that's like saying, we're going to give everybody, a speeding ticket, because we want to catch a couple of guys who have been speeding a lot. We're going to arrest a whole bunch of people, and then we're only going to charge the person that we really actually were after, but we're going to arrest a whole bunch of innocent people along the way. That's the kind of attitude that that's sort of how their actions should be viewed. They tried to catch a whole bunch of people while they were just trying to catch one bad guy. And then when they finally got caught doing it and called out on it, then they went and they tried to shut down any and all discussion about it. There were forum posts that they tried to intimidate. Intimidate forum moderators. There was the Reddit. There was a Reddit post about it. There was a whole Reddit thread about it, and they tried to intimidate the moderators there and said, "Oh no, you have to remove it. It's libel. It's defamation." It's like, no, it's not actually libel because it's fact. It's not. This is not speculation. This is fact. This is exactly what was found. And second, people have a right to know about that sort of thing. When you're doing things like that, people absolutely have a right to know about it. They have a right to talk about it. So the fact that they then started threatening to sue people who posted information about the malware that had been put in their installers. That right there shut them down in my books forever. The FSLabs, you will never get a cent out of my wallet. I have spent a lot of money in this business, in this hobby, and not one penny will ever go to you guys because, unfortunately, I feel like you guys do not respect the community as a whole. You definitely don't know how to play nicely with other people. I'm sorry to say that because I would love to give your airplane a try. It sounds so up my alley. It's exactly what I'm looking for in an airplane. Is very realistic simulations of everything. I like the PMTG airplanes for that. You can do pretty much anything. You can fail almost anything, and the airplane will respond accordingly. This airplane, not so much, as evidenced by my cabin failure that has not triggered a warning light, or my differential pressure failure that has not triggered any kind of a warning light. This is a basic. The systems are modeled to some degree, but it's not a failure airplane. It's a normal everyday operations airplane to get you from A to B. I accept that limitation, and I'm willing to work with that. It's a shame because I would love to give that FSLabs Airbus a try, but it's just never going to happen. So be careful what you guys do out there. Developers, most of you guys treat your users with a lot of respect. Be careful that you continue to do so, because when you stop treating them with respect, it's going to cost you a lot of sales. Alright, I think that's a long enough rant about my FSLabs Airbus and why it doesn't exist. What else can I do? One thing I was looking at, and I was reading up a little bit, was, let's see if I can find it here. I was reading up about a little bit more about the FSLabs, or not the FSLabs, the FS2 crew here on the Airbus. And it does do some fun things. Some of them are perhaps a little bit gimmicky. But, hold on a second, I'm just looking it up here. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. Okay, here's what I'm looking for, I think. So I did sort of read up a little bit more on it, and I can do few things, but here's the fun stuff you can do. You can just press the PA button here. No, not the PA button. The FA call button here. Give them a moment.
Hello?
Checked.
One coffee, please.
You bet. I'll be up in just a minute.
As silly as that is, it's kind of fun to do that. I will take a sip of my coffee now. You know I can't because he hasn't brought it to me yet. Yeah, I do like some of these little things in FS2 Crew. They're a little bit gimmicky, perhaps, but just fun. Just a little bit of innocent fun. But I will say that they do have, actually, I have been reading through the FS2 Crew documentation a little bit more, and they do have button control, but the trouble is that they're very specific and picky on the button names. To the point where it's almost... Wow.
Here you go, guys. I got you your drinks and a few snacks, too.
Thank you.
Sure, anytime.
As silly as that is, that's kind of fun. I started playing with that a little bit. You can order all sorts of things from your cabin crew. Let's see what else we can do here. Set engine anti-ice. Oh, I can turn this on.
Engine anti-ice 1 set to on.
Set engine anti-ice 2 to on.
Engine anti-ice 2 set to on.
Set engine anti-ice 2 off.
Engine anti-ice 2 set to off.
Set engine anti-ice 1 off.
Engine anti-ice 1 set to off.
What else have we got here? Set the nose wheel light to taxi.
Nose light to taxi.
Set the nose wheel light to off.
Nose light to off.
Set the seatbelt signs on.
Seatbelt sign set to on.
What other ones have we got? We do bleeds. We've got a couple other ones we can do. So we can turn on the ADIRs, various flight control computers, recorders, wipers. seatbelt signs, packs, crossplate selector, and then all the various lights. Nose wheel light. It's not nose light, it's nose wheel light. But it doesn't say nose wheel light, it says nose light. So, like, you know, they should really kind of take that into account and have nose light as also be as a trigger word, I would think. So you do have the ability to change some of these things, but you can even actually, let's see if we can do this. Oh, so what's the call? Set 2200 on the transponder. Set 2200 on transponder. Set 2200 on the transponder.
Set.
There we go. Swap COM 1.
Check.
Swap COM 1.
Check.
Set 118.7 on COM 1.
Set.
Set 122.8 on COM 1.
Set.
There you go. So some of these things do work. That's really useful, and I didn't know that was in there. That you can swap COM 1, that you can dial in frequencies on COM 1, and that's a little bit useful. That's something that I'm going to probably try to make some use of, because that's one thing you need to do is have your FO tune in frequencies when you're flying the VATSIM network by yourself on a busy evening and you're doing the approach and landing checklist, and then you're also trying to swap radio frequencies, and that doesn't work so well sometimes. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of now that I found out that that works. So it's amazing what you find when you read the manuals. And it's not a problem for FS2 crew manuals, but they are fairly long, lengthy manuals. There's a lot of information in there, and by the time you sort of got through all the SOPs, you sort of start to ignore the rest of it because you're focused on learning the SOPs, and then at some point afterwards you have to go back through the FS2 crew manuals and review some of these, because there are a lot of extra useful commands in these manuals. Now as we head northbound, it looks like there is a little bit of convective activity up there, so let's switch from terrain to weather and see if we can spot what's happening up there. Should be on. Everything looks like it's on. Don't see too much showing up on here yet. Turn that tilt down a little bit because we're at a pretty high altitude, so we might need to turn it down a little bit. I do see the -2 degrees there, so I'm guessing that's not convective enough anyways that it's showing up on the radar. There was a little bit of convective activity, I think, in Texas here. Let's just zoom out here on my SimToolKitPro. Should have a weather overlay on here, I thought. Maybe it has to load. Thought we had a weather overlay. Precipitation, yep, precipitation's on. Maybe it just is not reloaded. I swear there was a little bit of convective activity over Texas here. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Had to step away for a second to try and defuse a situation that was forming, but seemed to have taken care of it for now. So, hello to 12, hello Hacker21. We are, let's see here, we are making our way, cutting our way through the northern reaches of Mexico, and we're starting to approach the U.S. border, where we do have Houston Center online. So let's see if I can, I'm not sure, it's a Houston FSS, so I'm not sure if he only covers offshore operations or if he also covers the center itself. So let's give him a call and see anyways. Set 132.65 on COM 1.
Set.
Literally, the moment I tuned him in, he vanished off my V-pilot. Also logged off. The second I tuned him in. OMG. Hilarious. I am looking at my VATSIM window, and it does look like it was just an oceanic sector anyways. It just covers over the Gulf of Mexico. And there's one thing that about the SimToolKitPro, and I have been using it a little bit. It's representations for some of the VATSIM area control centers are not totally accurate. So this one here is actually Houston. I don't know how well you can see the contrast on here, but Houston 79 FSS, which according to VATSIM really covers this portion in the Gulf of Mexico and not actually Houston Center. I had the same problem the other day when I was flying across the Atlantic, and we had Gander Oceanic online, but it showed up as Gander Domestic on SimToolKitPro. So this is still, I'm very forgiving of this because it's still very much software that's in development. I'm not, I'm trying not to point out the problem so much as just highlight that there are still things that need to be updated and adjusted, but pretty much like on a weekly basis there are updates being made to the software. So it's it's a work in progress. So it may not be totally accurate, but one thing you can do, as I have said in the past, is this guy is very active on his Discord. So if you see anything that you notice with SimToolKitPro while you're using it, log in the Discord and make mention of it. And it seems like the updates come pretty fast. As I said, like the updates are coming like on a at least a once or twice a week kind of basis here. Even this one, there was just a 0.5.78, just a minor one button fix. But as you can see, there's no dates associated with this. But even in the last 2 weeks, like there have been a number of fixes already. We went from 0.5.6 to 0.5.7 here. So week by week, the software is growing and improving, which is great. And looks like certain things here. Airline images, new images courtesy of Creejag, new airlines courtesy of Jacob. So there's stuff constantly being updated for just to improve it, whatever users are bringing into it as well. So it's good to see the software is well supported. The users are supporting it well, and if you bring issues to the developer, he does things about it. So please, this seems like a really useful tool. It's got so much potential in here. I went through it in depth in my last stream, so if you guys want to have a look at it, check out on YouTube my Season 3 Episode 2 video, and I probably spent about 30 to 45 minutes going through all the different features of the software, how they all work together. The moving map is definitely one of the greater features of the software. It really comes out quite nicely. Pick the map you like, too. Here we are. Here's jump me around there, but here's the satellite view. So satellite imagery overlaid. Oh, the weather overlays back. There's a little precipitation there. There it is. There's precipitation offshore there. A little precipitation off to the east here, off in the northeast. So not much along our route, though. Our route's looking pretty sunny and clear today. It's going to be a beautiful day. I don't know where we're getting all these thunderstorms. Active sky. Oh well, that's okay. It's not perfect, but overall these things are playing pretty nicely together. So we've already almost left Mexico. We're getting into the United States here in the next 20 minutes here, and we're just about to round out the 2-hour mark on this stream. So if anybody's got anything they want to talk about, now's the time to bring it up. I'm probably going to step away in about the next 5 to 10 minutes here. Now we're getting rocked a little bit by this weather. I have to bring the power back just to maintain it. I might have to bring the power back, or the speed back a little bit if she doesn't calm down in a second here. Got some outflows near this thunderstorm we just passed here. That was causing some fluctuations in the speed. It seems to have stabilized now. Set seatbelt sign to off. Set seatbelts to off. Set seatbelt switch to off.
Speed 155 set.
No, that's not what I said at all. We'll leave the seatbelts on anyways for now. Set 122.8 on COM 1.
Set.
Alright, back to Unicom anyways. Monitoring Unicom. Door, yes, this is Active Sky Cloud Art with Active Sky Next combined there. I don't have Rex just the active sky cloud out part. But I do like it. I have to say, when I first got ASCA, I was a little bit skeptical. I got it before I even got Active Sky Next, and I was a little bit skeptical about how much of an improvement it would make, but I was just shocked. And it's not 100% realistic, but wow, like, just looking over there at the clouds, the billowing puffs of clouds there, like, it looks really quite good. Nothing can ever really quite capture, like, truly, like, how varied the cloud patterns are in the real world, because there's an almost infinite number of potential shapes in these clouds in the real world that Sims can't quite capture. But I have to say that certainly Active Sky Cloud Art made a very big difference in terms of the variety of clouds that are available and the realism of the clouds that are out there. So it's not perfect. You do start to see repetition, especially when you're at higher altitudes and you're looking out over longer distances. But even here, like, I don't really see repetition. You know, I see different cloud types, and they're kind of put together in such a mishmash jumble that I don't see too much repetition in it. The one place where I still tend to see more repetition, I think, usually is more in the convective weather, where the convective storms tend to all sort of look the same. If you're coming up towards a wall of convective storms, it all looks like a bunch of uniform sized cells of all about the same size, about the same height, that all sort of work together. And that's, of course, not the way it is in the real world. I think if Active Sky was to go from one thing next to really kind of make a huge improvement on their weather engine overall, it would be to increase the variety of convective cells, of cumulonimbus cells. So a greater variety, a greater size, a greater shape, variety of sizes and shapes, instead of all the convective clouds all tend to be about the same size. Because there's always cloud cells that are growing, dissipating, and that's one thing where it doesn't feel like, when you have a bunch of thunderstorms, there's a certain size that they all are, and it plays out on the weather radar, and it sort of plays out outside the window, and that's one place where it's a bit disappointing. It could be better. But, I mean, that's not to say that I'm unhappy with ASCA. Rex is better than ASCA, says Dor. Maybe I will have to give it a try. Right now I'm kind of on that, try not to spend an excessive amount of money in the near future, but I'm always willing to take suggestions and advice from people. And Rex has always been something sort of been on my radar, but I've never really felt compelled to move on with it. So I gladly take personal recommendations. If people suggest that certain things are a better improvement, then I'm definitely willing to consider it. Now, of course, the one question I have, because Active Sky Cloud Art is designed to integrate directly into Active Sky Next, how does Rex integrate into Active Sky Next? Is it a worthwhile integration, or because Active Sky Next tends to change the different cloud patterns as you move along through Active Sky. Does it have the same kind of integration with Rex, where it will change the different cloud patterns as you're flying through the sky, I wonder? Maybe it's time for me to start doing more research on this, because I really need another reason to spend money, guys. I don't need another reason to spend money, I really don't. But it's definitely, I'm willing to consider these things. It's not that I am so set in my ways that I won't consider other software as well. I like what I've got going on right now. I generally think it's good, but that's not to say that I will not maybe find something newer and better in the future. It's definitely possible. So I'm definitely willing to consider it anyways, guys. So, if you have suggestions of ways to improve the software, improve the look of it, like I said, like I've never tried out Rex, I'll be honest, so maybe it is worth trying. Like I said, I just have not to date had any real reason to try it. And there we go. We're passing PNG, which I don't even know what PNG is. As I said before, these are parts of the world that I am not familiar with, but we can find out. It'll be on the flight plan here. We passed Monclova, M-O-V, and P-N-G is Pedras. And pretty much as we cross that, we are crossing the Rio Grande. I think you can just make it out down there maybe. That might be it. Maybe if we switch to the external shot, you can see it there. It is. There's the Rio Grande, and as we cross the Rio Grande, we are leaving Mexico behind us and off into the United States. Where we won't stop anyways, we're just going to carry on all the way till we get to Toronto. Nice looking scenery down there though. Starting to get back into a little bit more familiar territory. Mexico was completely a new game for me. Never had been to Mexico before, and it was fun, and it was a shame I didn't get the ATC. I got it on the way in to Puerto Vallarta on the last flight. Didn't get it out on this one. Yeah, see, my only concern with Rex is just making sure that the cloud textures are able to vary with the control of Active Sky, because I do like the way it sort of shifts, and Active Sky does a very good job of sort of shifting the weather. We passed through that line of thunderstorms. Now we've just got some kind of mixed low cumulus clouds here as we head north, and it does a very good job, I find, of that. I think that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed in Active Sky, was not so much even just the live weather itself, which was great, of course, but the fact that there were well-defined boundaries to the weather areas, and that's what really, for me, made Active Sky so worthwhile. Like, as you fly along, you fly out of one region of clouds into another, and it wasn't just like a sudden click, and all of a sudden it all changed all around you on all sides. You passed over the boundaries. That was what I really noticed with Active Sky. Made it a huge difference to me. Made the sim so much more realistic, instead of just suddenly, snap your fingers and now you're in overcast skies. Snap your fingers again, now you're mixed convective activity. Snap your fingers again, you're now in clear skies, and there was never a defined boundary. It was just suddenly the whole sim changed around you. Here, there's such, I won't say well-defined boundaries, but there are boundaries, and you slowly cross them. And they're not even noticeable boundaries in a lot of cases. Sometimes it's just it's just from a sort of general overcast to more of a scattered layer, and then eventually suddenly it sort of just clears out to clear skies. But it happens so subtly as you're flying along, you don't even notice it, which is great. That's the way it is in the real world, and frankly, everything that gets it to look more like the real world is how I want to see it happen. So there's the Active Sky window, and there's the cloud decks that we're coming through. So we just passed through some of the convective activity. If I put a precip up here, it'll probably show that behind us somewhere. If it thinks about it, maybe it won't. And as we head up north, you can see there's going to be areas of much nicer, clearer skies. And I like that as you fly along, and sort of, as you look at it on the map, you kind of see the areas. You see how they're kind of defined as blobs, put on the map as various blobs. But when you're certainly flying in the sim, the blobs are so big that you don't notice them. You don't notice where they start and end, and that's what I really like. So I think probably. I don't even think about it anymore. Active Sky is such an automatic part of the sim. I don't even think about the difference it made before I had it. But what a difference it did make when I had it. Dor says that Rex does work very well with Active Sky, which is good. That's kind of what I was wondering. That's one thing that sort of shied me away from them. I kind of stuck with Active Sky Cloud Art and Active Sky because obviously they're made by the same developer, obviously made to play very nicely together. But if Rex plays nicely with Active Sky, definitely something I'm going to think about. But I'm going to stop streaming, or you guys are going to keep on getting me to spend more and more money. The more time I spend on the stream, the more you guys are trying to convince me to upgrade different pieces of software. Tim was trying to convince me an hour ago that I should be upgrading to version 5. I don't think he was really trying to convince me, he just asked. But then it got me to thinking about whether or not it was worth the upgrade. Which to date, and it's not that I don't think it's worth it, but it's also a question of spending the money for the time being, and I don't have a whole lot of money to spend right now. You gotta save the money because you don't know how much longer this whole scenario that we're in is gonna last for, so. And I have to keep that spending somewhat reined in. But I do appreciate it, guys. Like, I do take, you know, people's advice very seriously. Like, a lot of purchases, I will watch reviews and videos and stuff to decide for me if it's worth it before I will go out and buy it. I will not usually be the early adopter because I wait to see what other people have shown, what they, you know, how they show off their scenery, how they like it, before I will consider, you know, getting it for myself. Before I'll consider getting an airplane for myself, I want to see it operate, even just for other video games. Like, I watch a lot of Let's Play videos, and they often tell me whether or not a game is worth it for me or not. And thank goodness for the Let's Play series, because I think that the Let's Play series in a lot of cases are really good, because for certain video games that you're sort of on the fence about, they can often let you see very carefully how the game really plays and the replayability of it. And if you've watched it for, you know, an hour or so, and you find yourself not wanting to watch the videos anymore, or you find yourself not wanting to play the game after you watch the videos for an hour, chances are it wasn't really worth the investment anyway. So, but I'm a cautious spender, I think, in a lot of cases when it comes to add-ons. I tend to do my homework. I tend to watch reviews before I move on to purchasing software. So, you know, there's only so much money out there that we all have to spend. You've got to keep keep the spending reasonable. All right, let's see. So we're going to be in Toronto at about 28 or 21:28. So about. So I think I'm going to step away for a little bit here, guys. Just going to go and refresh my coffee and a couple other things, but I will probably be back no later than about 20:30 Zulu, maybe even sooner than that, depending on how things go. But yeah, I'm going to just step away for a little bit now, but we'll be back by no later than 20:30 to get ready for this arrival into Toronto. So thank you guys so much for watching so far. I hope you've enjoyed it. My mouth's getting pretty dry. I don't think I can talk for much longer without getting another drink. So in the meantime, we'll switch to the external views, guys. We'll just double check that everything is hunky-dory here. We are still seeing 5.3 over Toronto for our fuel, so we do have lots of fuel still in the tanks, 13 tons right now. Gonna burn another 7 tons to get to Toronto, so yeah, we're gonna step away for a little bit, but join me in another hour and a half, and we will, hour and a half, 2 hours at the most, and we'll start getting ready for that arrival into Toronto. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned.
to the snow, these frozen feathers are all I need to let go.
Alright guys, hello again. Captain Naps is back in the flight deck and we're ready to resume our flight over to Toronto. We got about 1 hour left here in the air. Let's just recheck everything here. And one thing we do have to do actually here, let's just hit the flight plan page here. And I'm just going to switch it to another page and come back to the flight plan page. No, maybe I just have to do that. There we go. Alright, anyways, Toronto 2124 with 5.3 in the tanks. Looking good on the fuel and the time. Just noticed that we're scraping the corner of Chicago Center and they are online. So let's just have a quick little tune in here and see if we can get them up.
Chicago Center American 310 climbing 9,600 for 15,000.
And American 310. Chicago. Hello. I'm attain 270 with normal speed.
Alright, total 270 normal speed, American 310.
Chicago Center, good afternoon. Transat 649er, flight level 330.
Aircraft calling, where you at?
It's Transat 649er, flight level 330, about 40 southwest of Fort Wayne. Yes, no, maybe so.
Aircraft 649 Chicago, good afternoon, squawk 1361.
Sorry, was that 1364?
Yes, sir.
1364 coming up, Transat 649er. Kind of just faded out just the last digit there, so I just had to be sure. Alright, 1364 is in the box. And yeah, here we go. Any ATC online in Toronto yet, I wonder? Actually, before we even do that, getting ahead of myself, let's just have a quick look here.
Envoy 221, contact Chicago, approach 1190.
Turn the seatbelts off. Set the seatbelts to off.
Okay, the seatbelt sign is set to off.
Thank you. Alright, so we're going to do a quick little scroll through here, just make sure that everything looks hanky-dory here. We've still got 7,000 kilos of fuel left. Engines are all running nicely in the green here. Looking good. Bleed system appears to be working normally.
November 16 Alpha, right crosswind departures approved, runway 32.
Pressurization system seems to be back to its usual little playing tricks on me here. I've seen it once or twice before, where the cabin stayed at basically sea level, minus 150 feet here, even though it requires pressure while over the...
Next contact, 10 miles east of Marion, flight level 330.
Transat 649, thank you. So this is a glitch in the Aerosoft Airbus. It's a known glitch. It's only intermittent though, so it's been very hard for them to chase down. Every time they think they've kind of got it on a new update, and then somebody comes back and says it doesn't work again. So sorry guys, sorry to burst the bubble, but it still is it's there. I've only seen it twice or 3 times out of probably a dozen at least Airbus flights, but just every once in a while it comes up.
What's your call?
Bolts, everything looks good. Generators are only putting out 25%. Looking good. Hydraulic systems are all in green, 3,000 psi across the board. Fuel tanks. Looks like the center tank is empty. 34 in each tank, that does 68. And also 68 plus 12,100, basically 7 plus 12 adds up to 19. So we haven't leaked any fuel. All the fuel that's gone into the engine that we've burned, the 12,000 here, has come from the fuel tanks, and nothing extra is missing. So it doesn't look like there's any kind of fuel leak. APU's not running. Conditioning system should give us nice even temperatures. It is 24 across the board. No one has opened the door yet. Brakes are cool. Flight controls are all looking pretty neutral for the most part. A little bit of one up trim, and that's about it. Alright, so quick check over all the aircraft systems, and it does seem like everything is hunky-dory as we pick back up on our adventure over to Toronto here. We're getting pretty close there. If you look off to the left, just in the distance there, you can just make out Lake Michigan. And we are going to come a little bit southwest. That's Fort Wayne right there. There it is. So there it is. That's Fort Wayne right over there. And there is a nice big airport there with a couple of long runways. I can't remember. I think it's on the west side. It's hiding behind, I think, that cloud on the west side of town, I feel like. I've been there once, at least. Can't remember precisely, but I feel like it should be there. Anywho. Alright, so now that we're all up to date here, we're just going to have a quick little look here. We can use SimToolKitPro even to our advantage here. We crossed through Memphis Center. This is probably a little dated now, but there we are. Here we are just crawling through the corner of the Chicago airspace, and nothing looking online yet for Toronto, unfortunately. Oh well. I'm hoping that we get there 5:30. It's just getting into that evening rush hour. Hopefully a couple of Toronto guys will come on soon, but not going to depend. Would be nice. Not going to depend upon it. But we are getting pretty close there. So what we can do, anyways, even if we don't have that, is we could even do it here in SimToolKitPro, where we can type in CYYZ and get that METAR and see what's going on in Toronto. The 1900 weather, it's a little outdated, but that's the VATSIM network for you. 130 at 9, 100 variable around 170, 15 miles, view 4,000, view 18,000, broke 25,000, 12 degrees, 2989 on the meters. So that means that we have, so let's see here. So what we'll do is we'll set 2989 down here anyways. So we're ready there. We can even leave that in non-standard right now, and it's ready to go for the next one. And we can start setting up our landing. So 12 degrees and 2989. Go ahead and hit up the performance page here. 29.89 and 12 degrees. There we go, and we'll do a flat 3 because it's a pretty nice long runway in Toronto, and I'm expecting we're going to be doing the ILS 05 today, coming from the Newber direction. So let's go ahead and pull up some charts and make sure we've got everything we need here. So I'm going to go to my favorites. Oh, I thought I had Toronto in here. Oh, you know why I don't have Toronto in there? Because...
649, sorry for the short stay. Cleveland is offline. We're going to services terminated. Frequency change approved. Have a good rest of the day.
Alright, back over to Unicom for Transat 649. Thanks for the service. Good day. A short little foray through his airspace. Alright, so you're gonna... Oops, nope, don't do that. I'll figure this out eventually here. So we're doing. So this was my favorites, however, then as I said at the start of the stream, did a full and total reinstall of everything. So that, I wonder if I can, yeah, add to favorites. So now, anytime I want to, I can go really quickly to Toronto and find all the Toronto charts very quickly and easily. And we can type in something here if we want. Maybe 05. And then that will show me most of what I need to know here. Newber 4 for 05. And then scroll down this list and show me the ILS for 05. There we go. And we should have, yep, we got parking infield I don't need. And I can probably remove all of these MMPR charts now from my kneeboard because I'm not going back there anytime soon, unfortunately. Pity, because that was nice scenery. And I will try to go there again someday, but not today. We can get rid of that. Okay. We don't need the Amoeba 5 arrival today, so all we got is airport info. I don't need the ILS Runway 23. The other thing I will need is just the apron chart. Type in park, there it is. See, if I had an even, if I had a real keyboard, that would be a really nice feature. But even so, the filter is very nice at airports that have a lot of charts. It works really well. Helps us get the charts that we need really quickly here. Alright, so the one thing I was looking for, really the reason I was looking at this information, was just to get the minimums for the ILS 05, which are 7, sorry. Zoom in the wrong way here. That's not helping anybody at all. Just making my eyesight worse and worse. 764 is the barrow mins. 764 feet is the barrow mins, and we're good. And you can see the top, it drops just starting to scroll into view, just at Query pretty much there, so just about 140 miles. And if you look out the window now, you start to see Lake Erie scrolling into view. So we are getting there. We're not there yet, but we are getting there pretty quickly here. Alright, so just setting up the arrival into Toronto. We got, I believe we do have that approach programmed in as the ILS 05. Check the flight plan page. It does. It ends with CYYZ 05. So we do have the correct page already programmed in. And yeah, I think that's everything we pretty much need. So we can probably go through and ask Buddy if he's ready. Are you ready for the approach brief?
Ready?
Okay, so the approach brief for Toronto runway 05. So we've got the performance numbers already in. The distance is checked. The runway is plenty long. Oops, there we go. Yep, we've got speeds. Landing speed of 149. The approach of 154. A pretty fast speed. I'm inclined to say, if I switch this to full, doesn't even take that much off. It just takes us down to 145. You know what? We'll do config full today, just to try and slow ourselves down a little bit, because that's a pretty fast speed. We are coming in pretty heavy here. We got a pretty much almost a gross weight. Not gross weight, but we got almost close to maximum zero fuel weight and maximum landing weight. So yeah, we'll do the flap full today. See if that performs any differently. See if it feels any differently as we do the approach. All right. So let me just pop this out for the sake of the briefing. I'll have that ready to go. And there we go. So we'll get the knee board out and ready to go. We've got the flight plan here ready to go. And I see London Towers online, so... Oh, and I do have Toronto departure today. Nice, we do have some Toronto controls, so as we get a little closer in, we should have a... Oh, before I do the briefing, I do have an ATIS, so I'm just going to check the ATIS here, requested by the vPilot ACARS system. 170 at 8, winds variable 120 to 180, visibility 15, clouds 4,000, view 19,000, broken. 12, 2 point -4, approaches are ILS 05 and RNAV X-ray runway 05. That's weird to do the RNAV X-ray during the day, because the RNAV X-ray is really the night-only, curfew-only procedure. It helps, it's got an offset approach centerline, so it helps with the noise abatement in the areas around the airport. So weird to be advertising it during the day. We'll stick to the ILS 05 at this point. And a braking advisory. Why is there a braking advisory? Has it been just raining lately, snowing? I know it's chilly, it's not exactly summer weather, but I don't think it's snowing anyways. But anyways, the important thing is that it is 05. So, we're going to do the Nuber 4 arrival to runway 05 here in Toronto. And if I can collapse this down, yeah, there we go, nice. 10-2 Echo 3, effective the 20th of June. RNAV 1 DDI GNSS required to stay out to 100 miles, 4,900 feet, jet aircraft only. Nuber 4 arrival for 05. We're going to join it at Query. After Query, we're going to go to Canuck. We're going to hit up Herbal, Nuber, and then Ikbat at 220 knots at 7,000 feet. And then for 05, it's Lenny and Dulpa. At Dulpa, we transition to the ILS 05. There's no other notes on the plan. The approach procedure is the ILS to runway 05 on flight 11-1, effective the 30th of January of 2020. Loc is ITX 1097, and the inbound course is 057. Just double check the nav radio page. We do have 1097 ITX and 057, that's all pre-programmed. Glide slope at Kerpu 2030. Here's Kerpu 2030, and the ILS minimums, as we said, are 764. And those are set. Missed approach is climbed to 1100 on a heading of 057. Flight plan page, please. Just show me the missed approach. straight ahead to 1100 feet, heading 057, and then a climbing left turn to 3000, intercept the Toronto 013 radial outbound of the Avtech intersection. Hold there at 3000 feet, and hold. Notes, radars required, safe altitude 100 miles is 49, simultaneous approaches authorized to 6 left or right. This is North America, transition altitude is always 18,000, and the local level 10 degrees of center line, procedure turn not authorized. Yes, I'm talking really fast, but I've read this thing 1,000 times, so I don't feel the need to, like, really go through it all that slowly. Most of the stuff is pretty typical notes, nothing crazy or unusual here. MSA is highest, most sectors around Toronto at 3,100 feet. It is a 3-degree standard glide slope. Pappy's on the left. ALS F2 lighting system is VFR, so we're expecting to spot the runway anyways without any help from that. And the 2600 RPR, half-mile minimum visibility, again, VFR, not expecting an issue. Taxi, we're going to probably make the right turn on Hotel 3, part of why we're doing the flaps full landing. Right turn Hotel 3 and Hotel Bravo to Terminal 3. I'm going to guess that we probably do not have a gate. I'm going to quickly pull up here. I could actually even do it on here now because I've been doing it a little bit on here. Flight aware, and if you do, Transat 649, you're probably going to get no information because the Transat has been shut down for the last 5-6 weeks here. All it says is arrived at Terminal 3. It won't give me a gate, so I get to pick a gate at random. Fine by me. So international arrivals would be any of these Charlie gates here anyways will be the international arrival gates. So I've been going in this side here. You know what, let's do something different. Let's do Charlie 39 maybe, or Charlie 40, something on that side, just to do something different, change it up a little. So let's do that. We'll plan on Charlie 40. Yeah, that should work. Again, terrain is nothing much around the field, 3,100 foot MSA. Weather is VFR, as we saw. The destination, the alternate, we can also pull up here. CYXU is the alternate. And also a VFR light winds kind of day. A little bit gusty, actually. Not light, but variable winds anyways. Light. Sorry, gusty and variable is probably the best way to put it. But otherwise, screaming VFR. No problem. I can close this anyways because it's not doing anything for me anymore. And let's see. So that's terrain and weather. Yeah, talked about operational. Airplane is fully functional. No TAMs for Toronto. Let's just see if there's anything in here. Yankee, Tango Charlie. Ice shed position's not relevant. Whiskey. 23, 24 left. Nothing for the arrivals on 05. So yeah, I'd say we're golden. And that is pretty much it. The only thing I have left to say is fuel for the alternate. We need, what do we determine, 30, just a little over 30, 3,031 maybe, not even, 20, 26, 27-ish, less than 28 anyways. So let's check down here. Actually, that's over here, still in the corner. And it does say 5.3, so we got lots of extra fuel, at least 2,000 kilos of extra fuel. That's a good... what are we burning fuel at here? Burning at 3,000 kilos per hour, so we got 2,000 and then some. So we got easily 30 to 45 minutes of extra fuel before we have to divert to our alternate. So we got lots of time to do a missed approach, hold, you name it, we're okay. And that's basically it. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Okay, that's checked, and no questions.
Alright, and he is briefed, you guys are briefed, and we're ready. We're just approaching top of descent here. So I don't see any arrival today, I just see Toronto departure. So we'll have to do our self-vectoring onto final, which is easy because the star is a straight closed star transition directly into the arrival. Nice and easy, and then just switch over to departure on final. For now, we'll just set up that frequency so we're ready to go, because once we start descending, things start to happen pretty quick. And that's it. So one thing I did notice, guys, I was scrolling through my news feed there, just to kind of look up and see what's happened lately, because I have was a little bit floundering for some things to talk about. But one thing that did across my news feed, and maybe you guys are excited about it, I'm a little interested in it anyways, is TFDI announced their next aircraft project. So TFDI, most of you probably know, made the 717, which is, their model is really great. I'm a little disappointed with the 717, but it's nothing to do, I think, with TFDI. I just don't like the way that airplane handles. I find the autopilot system is a bit almost like a Tonka toy autopilot system. It really is very, very simplistic, to the point, overly simplistic. You have very little control over what it's doing, it feels like. You know, it's either doing an approach or it's not, and that's basically it. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that airplane from an avionics standpoint. From TFDI standpoint, though, I do like what they've done. They've done a great airplane. They've done some things that are a little different from most others, and that is that the whole thing is installed through their software manager. But you know what? It works quite well. I managed to reinstall it very quickly with very little issue, and every time there's an update, it updates usually very quickly with, again, very little issue. So I like what they've done, and I'm looking forward to some more work from these guys. They have done an excellent job with 0717 in terms of modeling, in terms of systems, getting it up and running, and also something that is a perennial favorite of mine is the shared cockpit experience, which TFDI was one of the first, I think, to really kind of go down that road with the shared cockpit experience in the P3D world. I think even before Aerosoft really had kind of mastered it, TFDI was getting it done, you know, definitely before the Mad Dog got on the 717. You could do shared flight deck, so that I thought was great, and I'm going to operate on the assumption, without having read too much about it because they've only just announced it, but I'm going to operate on the assumption that they're probably going to work the shared flight deck into the MD-11 as well, which is great because that's a nice long haul aircraft, nice heavy hauler, and if you like flying, if you like freight dogging it and doing cargo runs, that is the airplane. FedEx must have 100 of them if they got one. They're just everywhere, it seems. So that should be, you know, I think it's going to be a fun airplane, a good addition to the stable. Not that I need more excuses to spend any money. That's one thing I'm trying to stay away from. So I should probably stay away from my news feed, because that news feed is just full of more excuses to spend your money. She seems to be getting a little bit jumpy. I'm not sure what's going on. There are a lot of airports and scenery around Detroit. So this is Detroit. We're flying over Metro Detroit right now. If I lean against the window glass, you might just see that. I believe is the Detroit City Airport right there, the original Detroit International Airport before they opened up Metro County, or Wayne County, or whatever it's called, and took away almost all the businesses. You can see it's a very small airport here, very space constrained. The suburbs grew up around it pretty quickly, so quickly became outdated. But I think we're pretty much right underneath us right now is Detroit Metro Airport. Which, if I can switch to an external view, that's the Detroit River there, and there it is. There's the Detroit Metro Airport just behind us there. Obviously a much bigger airport, much more suited to handling the needs of this huge metropolitan area than that one little airport ever was. And then, as you can see in the background there's Willow Run Airport right there, also known as Ypsilanti, which was a site of a lot of manufacturing of airplanes during World War II. I can't remember which company, I think it was General Motors, was making a lot of airplanes there. And the buildings are still there. There's some huge, huge hangars there that were production hangars back in the day. They're not really being used for much anymore. Certainly not production anyways, but still a testament to bygone days there. And now, guys, it looks like we have just crossed back into Canada as we pass right over Windsor. And I wonder if they've modeled any of the car company headquarters down here. General Motors has got their headquarters right around here somewhere. It doesn't look like it's very well modeled, though, if it is. Anyways, we're just coming up to top of drop here, but yeah, the MD-11 looks like it could be a fine aircraft. You know, obviously you need to see more details. It's just preliminary drawings and things like that. Not a whole lot of detail out there yet, but definitely an airplane that would be worth investigating. It looks like it could be a very fun airplane. That was about all that I really noticed that scrolled across my news feed lately. I'm always interested if you guys have more things that you've noticed, that you've seen, that you want to share, talk about, get some information out there. I'm always game. Now, he said GPWS flap 3, and I'm going to go ahead and change that because we're now going back to doing the config, the full landing config. And I'm going to get GPWS warnings if I don't do that. So let's just confirm that it is set to full, yes. big letters. Yeah, so destination data is all entered. Thank you, airplane. And we are good to go. And we're almost there. And then the next one's going to be the really long one. So the European turn all the way to Amsterdam and back in the 330. That's going to be a very long leg. And I'm still debating how to handle that much flying. And I'm really not sure. I think because I really want to do, you know, as much day flying as possible, I think it's going to end up being an extremely early departure out of Canada, fly a good portion of the day across the Atlantic, and then land in the evening hours in Amsterdam, in the European evening hours in Amsterdam. I think that's how we're going to handle it. The flight back is going to be a little bit easier because you're going to be going with the sun, so it's easier to kind of keep up with the day. But the leg out, you know, normally this kind of leg would be flown probably in the evening, like departures anywhere from 4 to like 9 p.m. and then fly all night and land early in the morning in Amsterdam. But I'm not going to leave the stream going, and I'm not going to stay up all night just to do these flights. So it's going to be a little bit unorthodox, perhaps from a scheduling perspective, but I'd much rather stream as much as possible during daylight hours, because the sim looks pretty good at night, but you just don't quite get it through the stream. The stream tends to, the quality is not as well conveyed through the stream. It looks extremely dark. So I'm going to do my best to avoid it. I'll have to run some calculations to see how long it's actually going to take to get to Amsterdam and how that's going to work with the time I have available. But right now I'm leaning towards a very early start and then like a late afternoon North American time arrival in Amsterdam. I will also take that opportunity to demonstrate some of the oceanic procedures to you guys, I hope, assuming we have some oceanic controllers online at that time. Hasn't been never a guarantee in the VATSIM network, but lately there's been a real push to get the North Atlantic coverage out there more often. There's been a huge push towards that, which is great. So hopefully we'll have at least some coverage on either the Gander or the Shanwick end, and be able to demonstrate some oceanic procedures, clearances, position reports, etc. Something that it's not difficult, but you just need to sort of be shown it a couple times, you know, read up on it a little bit. It's very different from flying in North America, where it's all you're always on radar all the time. People can see you all the time. North Atlantic operations are a non-radar environment. It's different. It's not a bad thing. It's just different. And like I said, if you haven't been shown how to do it, it can be very it can be a little bit of, not a shock, but a little bit overwhelming the first time. Now we're just approaching top of descent, and I just want to check one thing here, of course, to make sure that I do not have pause at top of descent on, which I do not. It's off, so that's good. I tend to leave that on a lot because I do tend to need it sometimes. I step away from the flight deck when I am doing personal flights. But we don't need it today. We're here, we're present. Alright, and there goes query. We're just starting the arrival now, and we're just going to start our descent now. You know what? Let's do it. Let's start it. There we go. 240, and manage descent. And it looked like we timed it just right because there the green dot went sailing by. Which, as the thrust comes to idle, we should be okay here. Might need a little bit of the speed brake out there. Keep your hand on it so you don't forget. This is one tip that the pros always use in the real world, guys. If you do use the speed brake, and I do have it programmed into a control on my throttle quadrant, always keep your hands on the speed brake when you have it out so that you don't forget that it's out. As soon as you close it, take your hand away. If you have to go do something else, you can take your hand away for a second, but always bring your hand back when you're done. Alright, closed up again. Always bring your hand onto the speed brakes and leave it there when whenever you get the speed brake deployed, so you don't forget. It's very easy to forget that you had them out a little bit, and then you level off and you start accelerating and you start just putting power against the speed brakes, and it's bad form. It wastes quite a lot of energy to work against the speed brake, so always keep your hands on that speed brake lever when you're not using it. Alright, this should be a nice quick descent into Toronto, straight in. Still looking like 24 after is when it's saying we're going to land, which is not too bad. Basically 25 minutes from top of drop to landing at the airport, pretty good. Nice continuous descent, and even a little bit of ATC for us. That looks like a fairly cloudy day over Ontario here, so we're going to have to make sure we do get that anti-ice on as we get a little lower. Almost done with yet another leg. Just type something in here. Just check on the weather one more time. But yeah, we've been pretty successful here so far in Season 3. No major incidents in this airplane, which the Airbus is good for that. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it so far. I am still a little, like I said before, a little nervous. Oh, we're already at the 240. All right. $7,000, and there's the descent, and it's gotten a little slow, so she's going to give her a little more power to get the speed back up again. Yeah, the only thing that makes me nervous about the next leg of a pilot's life is, yeah, like I said, the 330 it's given me issues, and I like it because it's a fun airplane. It's fairly easy to fly. It's so similar to this airplane. I barely had to even touch the manual. I basically sat down and ran my 320 procedures, and we got off the ground no problem. So it's a very familiar airplane, but as I said, I have not had good luck with it. It has been a little bit crash happy on this sim, and I don't know why. And I did a complete reinstall of the sim. Even after that, it still is a little bit crash happy. It still crashed one time after that, and a successful side after that. So I have mixed emotions about it, and I'm worried that I'm going to end up doing 3/4 of a stream and have it crash when we're in approach to Amsterdam and lose all of our progress. And like I said, I probably will only give it about one chance, and after that I will probably use the skip leg button. There is a button in the schedule. I can't show it to you now, but on the in the pilot's life, you have the option to skip up to 3 legs in a month, which is actually not a bad option. It gives you a chance to sort of like, if there's something that's really completely out there, where maybe you don't have scenery for that airport, or it's something that you don't have an airplane that can deal with the range. It's nice that you have this sort of this get out of jail free card, and you can buy additional ones if you want to skip even more flights. You can buy your way, use your money to buy your way out of even more flights, which is kind of a neat feature. I was going to do my best to try and avoid using it, and if I do use it, the only reason is going to be because the sim crashes on me. So here's hoping it doesn't. Alright, we're getting down there. Terrain on nav display. I'll probably kill that weather radar. I don't see too much untowards weather out there at all today. That's pretty nice. It is something satisfying about being home after a couple of days away. That nice, long, familiar approach into your home airport. Oh, there's something quite nice about it. A little pause there. Don't know why. I assume probably it's starting to load some Toronto-level scenery here. Although we are pretty far back from Toronto still for it to be loading that scenery. I can't really think of much of what else it might be. to do is I'm going to switch this off the live map, because I find that live map tends to churn up quite a bit of the processor power. What else is turning up my processor power? Google Chrome always uses up so much processor power. Let's make sure I don't have any windows open that I don't need to, because that always takes up way much more processor power than it should. There we go. Alright, and while we were doing that, transition, set to 9er, 8-9er, and 2989 set.
2989, cross-checked, passing 16,000.
It's going to take him a little while before he says now. It's going to be about another 60 seconds and he's going to suddenly say now. Imagine Toronto's probably getting pretty busy here. You know what? I'm not even going to pull... I'll pull it up one time on here. And then we'll stop looking at the live map here. We do have quite a number of airplanes here departing and arriving Toronto. A couple anyways. This is not correct because we're doing 05, but this was originally planned for 15 left, so that's why that looks like that. Alright, let's go ahead and bring that up and get this out of here. So checked. Now he's at 16,000. Alright, and how are we doing temperature-wise here? We look at a tap of -1. Set engine anti-ice 1 to on.
Engine anti-ice 1 set to on.
Set engine anti-ice 2 to on.
Engine anti-ice 2 set to on.
There. I'm using him a little bit. It's amazing what reading the manual will do for you. Alright, coming up quickly now. We got 30 miles pretty much till we enter the TCU, 40 miles till we enter the TCU. We got a big deceleration coming up because we're doing 325 knots still. And we're going to need to bring it back to 220 by the time we get to IGBAT. So that's going to be a huge deceleration. It's going to start in about 10 miles here, just under 10 miles. The nice thing is the Airbus does work while it does. It does monitor these descents pretty well. And VNAV is a hard thing to program because there's so many variables that go into it with compensating for wind speed and the shifting speed profile as the aircraft descends, the true airspeed shifts as the airplane descends. And to compensate for all that, VNAV planning requires quite a lot of computational power, more than it seems like a simple problem. But it's actually a fairly complicated one. So to see an airplane that handles it well it's a testament to the programmers that they've paid a lot of attention to detail. So, you know, Aerosoft, thank you for that. I've criticized Aerosoft for a few things on the Airbus, and I don't want to sound ungrateful because overall, it's a good airplane. And most of the stuff on the Airbus works very well, but there's a few little things here and there. In the 330, I've noticed a few more niggling things that really kind of bug me, and maybe I'm not, again, maybe I have to read the manual a little bit more, but a few things that are a little bit different that don't seem to work quite as well as they do on this one. So I don't know if it's just a question of if these are different by design or if there's just simply maybe not as polished, because the 330 is relatively recent release, came out just before Christmas, whereas the 320 Pro has been out for what, I think 2 years now, so they've had a lot of chances to update the 320 Pro, find the problems and update that, whereas the 330 is still relatively new. How are we doing? +5 on the TAT. We've got to get to +10 to close that dice. Oh, good. Well, the clouds just vanished anyway, so as soon as we got close, the clouds just vanished. Alright, and any second now we're going to hit the deceleration point, and that speed's going to come right back. Set anti-ice. Set engine anti-ice 1 to off.
Engine anti-ice 1 set to off.
Set engine anti-ice 2 to off.
Engine anti-ice 2 set to off.
The trouble with engine anti-ice, especially on your descents, is that most of your descents are planned assuming flight idle. Usually most engine anti-ice systems will not be effective above flight or at flight idle because you need a little bit of heat coming from the engine. You don't get enough at idle, so they'll often have a minimum power setting, an idle power setting with the NDAs on that's higher. That's instead of being 38%, it's more like 44, 45%. And your FMS does not usually take that into consideration. So if you have your NTAs on for descent, you may end up not being able to decelerate and descend as quickly as you expect because you're idling at a higher idle power. I really should have it on for these wispy clouds, but I'm not going to worry too much about the little wispies here. However, what we are going to ask for is approach checklist. Approach checklist.
Okay, approach checklist. Briefing?
Complete. Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Seatbelts.
On.
Baro ref.
2989 set.
2989 set. MDA DH.
764 feet set.
764 feet set. Engine mode selector.
Norm.
Alright, approach checklist is complete.
Alright, and we're just about there, guys. Got the first deceleration point in there for 10,000 feet, and then we got to get 220 by ICBAT, which only requires a slight more deceleration. See, I can hear it adding power, so yeah, and the TAT has come down to +1 because we decelerated, so you know what, we are going to put that engine anti-ice back on for the time being as we continue our descent to Toronto. Alright, and as we get ready to turn final here, I'm going to make one more request to the ADAS to see if it's updated. Nope, it is still information Delta. So once we get established on final, we'll give departure a call and let them know we're inbound. So far pretty uneventful, not as busy as I would have expected for this time of day in Toronto. I would have expected a little bit more control, a little bit more going on, but not too bad. Alright, and as we sink below 10,000 here, she's running a little slow though.
10,000.
She's kind of targeting, the target says we should be doing 250, but she's kind of doing about 235, and that's where she's sitting. Doesn't want to go any faster than that. Weird. Alright, you got the landing lights on, yep. Alright, so we're below 10,000. We should be able to summon GSX now, although I think we're a little bit too far from Toronto still. Yeah, we're a little bit too far. Let's wait till we get closer to turning final. And Canadian Ace says, yeah, it's busier on the west coast. Seattle must be having an event. Yeah. Well, we can't win every single time. I have had some pretty decent ATC the last couple of legs, so this one's been a little bit quiet for me, unfortunately. Had nothing for departure. We're gonna have a little bit for arrival, which is fine, you know. And you take what you can get. You know, you don't want to be ungrateful because you take what you can get. But yeah, normally this time of day you see quite a few arrivals, departures in Toronto, so it's a little bit surprising. But yeah, if there is an event happening on the west coast, then that would make sense. It's wherever the ATC is, the pilots often follow. Be glad for what you get. Alright, there goes Nuber, another 10 miles, 7 miles, and we'll start that deceleration to 220 knots, which we're halfway there already. Which is flying a little bit slow, and I don't know why. A little bit hazy down here. That fluctuating airspeed is playing with that auto throttle. She is not sure if she wants to add power or not. Look at that thing going here. That would not be good for a real set of engines. They would not like being backwards and forwards like that all day. Alright. Do we have... No, I'm not sure what the range is.
1,000 to go.
30? 20? Like, these guys are just over 25 miles, so... I guess we're just over 30 miles from destination. And no, today there's no ATC, there's no center ATC in Toronto. I did have a couple en route. I had Memphis Center for about a half an hour, and I had Chicago. I was only in their sector for about 10 minutes. So I did have some ATC, so I'm not trying to be ungrateful. There was some ATC. Departures and arrivals are the interesting time where you want to see the ATC, though, most of the time. Alright, set 4,000, so the departure for the descent continues past ICBAT, 4,000, and we'll intercept final at 4,000. That'll be good. So we're going to have a little level off here at 7,000 just till we get to ICBAT while it looks for 220 knots. Alright, we're getting close. Okay, so we got, first of all, let's just check temperature still, TATA +5, which departure's reminded me to call him on final, which, yes, we know, we're aware, we're going to do it, don't worry. But he's watching just to make sure, because 5 miles is not the time where you want to be scrambling. So let's just double check. We do have, yep, we do have 128.8 up there, and actually, what was that command that I learned last time? It is swap COM1 is the command, so we'll ask the FO to do that, and then all I have to do is press the push to talk, which will be nice. I'm excited about that. Okay, now we should be within range of Toronto Pearson. There we go. So we're looking for Charlie 40 if we got it. Charlie 40 is the gate. Handling by WestJet. Good enough for me. Alright, so we're now on our way down. Yeah, that's the thing. Once you're en route with ATC, it's nice to have it. It's nice to listen to what other people are doing. But for you, usually it's a check-in and a check-out, and that's it. So that's why, like I say, like the departure and the arrival is more. I'd rather have the ATC. That's a much more.
Flight deck. Okay, thanks for letting me know, Captain. The captain is secure.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get this. Arm approach.
Okay, approach is armed.
I got alt armed, I got glide slope armed, and loc armed. I've got the localizer up. We're just below the glide slope. It's all looking good here. And we're just going to be turning final shortly here, and I just need to recalibrate my screen because I just shifted slightly so I'm better positioned for my actual flight controls here. Lokestar.
1,000 to go.
Checked. And we're going to start bringing the speed back. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
She's really having a hard time keeping the speed today, though. She's very touchy, up and down with it. It's not even that gusty. It doesn't feel like it's that bumpy here. Loc. Alright, let's get that speed coming back some more. 180. Well, I recognize where we are. We're trucking along the 401 there, just past Milton, so we're doing good. And one thing I'm going to do as well now is pop this out because I'm going to want that handy as we do this. We're going to level off briefly for a second here at 4,000. And then we're going to intercept. So that's Alt Star. Alt. Glide slope star.
Checked.
Set altitude 3,000.
Altitude 3,000.
Checked. Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Swap com 1.
Check.
Set speed 170.
Speed 170 set.
Toronto Tower, good afternoon. Transat 649er on the ILS Runway 05 with information Delta.
Transat 649er, Toronto Tower, good afternoon. Winds 170 at 8 knots, cleared to land runway 05.
Cleared to land 05, Transat 649er. Set nose wheel light to on. Set nose wheel light to takeoff.
2,500.
I don't know myself. Come on. Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Just trying to remember the landing speed here. 150. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Set speed 150.
Speed 150 set.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full. Cabin crew seats for landing.
Landing checklist.
Okay, landing checklist. Cabin crew,
Advised.
auto thrust,
Speed.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Checked. Alright, looking good. Speed's on target.
1,000.
1,000.
Checked. Stable. Alright. Autopilot off.
Check.
Danger mode. The pilot is flying. The pilot is flying. Danger mode.
$500.
Checked.
$400. $300. 100 above.
Checked.
Glide.
200.
Minimum.
Landing.
100.
Check.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
One day I'll land on the center line.
Spoilers. Reverse screen. Decel. $70 knots.
So much for making Hotel 3, unless I hammer the brakes here. Did I not set the auto brakes? I don't think I did I?
Transat 649, welcome to Toronto. Continue taxi on hotel, and where would you like to park?
Okay, continue taxi hotel. We're going to Charlie 40 for Transat 649er.
Transat 649er, I checked that taxi via Hotel Bravo Alpha Kilo. Cross 15 left, and ramp will be at your discretion. Have a great afternoon.
Hotel Bravo, cross runway 15 left, apron our discretion, entering at Alpha Kilo, Transat 649er, thanks. Okay to clean up. See, and this is one thing that really kind of bugs me, and if I was working at this airline, I would say something about it. Why is the auto brake not in the checklist, not in the approach checklist? And it doesn't come up on the ECAM memo either. And I find that odd because I've forgotten it more than once in this airplane. And it's one of the few airplanes I can think of where the auto brake is not in the checklist. I'm kind of waiting for the deceleration to happen, and then it's not happening because the auto brake's not on. Getting just reverse is all we're getting. Set strobe to off. Set strobe light to off.
Strobe's off.
There, I'm starting to get better at controlling him though. And the more you do it, the easier it is. I don't know if you noticed that on final, but I was making very good use of the FO there so I could focus on the flying. Even though I was still, it wasn't me flying, it was the autopilot still flying, but I could focus on the situation much more because I had the FO doing things like swapping the radios and adjusting the speed even, and that really helps take that workload off. So, you know, FS2 crew, guys, is a totally worthwhile endeavor. I kind of scoffed at it at first, and I thought it was, like so many other things, I thought it was gimmicky, but it really helps a lot with those high workload moments. And then and then the important thing is that your hands and your eyes are where they need to be. You have an FO. He doesn't do anything particularly smart, but he can do the basic things. He can change switches and knobs in the flight deck for you at your instruction to keep things a little easier. I probably tax it a little faster than this. Don't need that much power, guys. But we can do faster than 9 knots on the taxi. Alright, but there we go, we're home, we are back to Toronto, another leg done, and away we go. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. Puerto Vallarta was a really nice place to visit. As I've said before, very much out of my comfort zone, but nevertheless, it's good to get out of your comfort zone. It's good to test your boundaries, and you learn some things, you see some things, and it was a beautiful airport to land at. I hope that maybe when I assemble my next leg for a pilot's life, or my next schedule for a pilot's life, I hope that another Puerto Vallarta turn might be in there again. Even though I've done it already, it's not somewhere I've been to a lot, and I look forward to trying something different, and I look forward to trying it again, and maybe revisiting it, because it was a lot of fun, and there was other approaches that we didn't do, so maybe we could do a different, maybe we'll land and depart on 04 this time instead. Alright, so this is, that was Alpha Tango we just sailed past. This should be Alpha Juliet, and Alpha Kilo will be the next one on the left after that, the second one on the left right now. And then we will be done. We'll offload these guys, and we will bid adieu to another leg and another week in the schedule, which will be great. We'll move on very soon.
Toronto approach, good evening, on course 3419 with you through flight level 210 on the Knox 5 arrival.
Busy here though, actually. There's a couple of airplanes on the ground. There's a United flight, there's a WestJet flight, there's a few airplanes on the ground here. It's not the busiest afternoon in the world, but
Toronto arrival is offline, so arrival will be at your discretion. Contact me on a 5-mile final of the runway.
Okay, we'll call you on a 5-mile file, and it shows on VPilot that you're departure, so I don't know if that's a glitch or not.
Yep, that's affirmative. I only control departures, but I don't control any arrivals coming into Toronto.
Gotcha. All right, we'll give you a call on file.
Roger.
Oh, soon enough you'll be controlling arrivals. That'll be the interesting fun part. Alright. Here comes AK, as that sign goes sliding by there. Now for those of you guys that want to be realistic, the general rule of thumb for making turns is 10 knots. For anything that's like a sharp turn here, so like these turns here, 10 knots at the max. If you really want to make it comfortable for your virtual passengers, about 7 to 8 knots. In most airplanes is reasonably comfortable. 10 knots is usually not too bad. People will know you're turning. If you slow down to 7 or 8 knots, it's amazing the difference. You barely even notice the fact that the airplane is turning at that point, which I like to do. I like to, I really like to give people a really good smooth ride. That's always my goal. The sweatbox sessions for arrival in the beginning are not too bad. They teach you some basic stuff. The later ones are really quite grueling. Yeah, the training for arrival is a little bit different from departure. Departure is really repetitive. Arrival becomes a little bit more artistic, if you will. I've said it before. Departure is where you learn the technical skills, and then arrival is where you're going to learn the art of radar control. So that's why you kind of need to master departure first. It's a little bit easier, and then you can work on those technical skills of monitoring the traffic and dealing with the phraseology specifically for that on the radar. And then when you get into arrival, then you're ready to really kind of spread your wings and see the more interesting stuff. So, but the first few sweat boxes in arrival are not too bad. The last one or two, they will really make you work. Turn the APU on. Glad I learned that one too. That's a useful one. Alright, I want to be the last ones on the left here, just about, and the second last one on the left. Yep, 37. $38. $39, and last but not least, set nose wheel light to off. Set nose wheel light to off. Set nose wheel light to off. Oh, for crying out loud, you're useless sometimes. See, and now I took my eyes off the prize and I'm way off track here, but we'll fix it. No problem. I'm going to go with the VGTS there. Hold on, let's go to the external view for a second. Oh, not that one. Close enough. Good enough for me. Alright, so the APU is up and running. Yep. Parking checklist.
Okay, here's the parking checklist. APU bleed.
On.
Engines.
Off.
Seat belts.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Cockpit from ground.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Chocks are in now, and you can release the parking brake.
Off.
Parking
Thank you.
brake and chocks.
Set.
Parking checklist is complete.
Checked.
Cabin crew, disarm slides.
Now, because I didn't quite make it to the gate, he's not quite happy with me. I might have to just bypass it and get Sode to operate the gate for me. There. Sometimes GSX gets hung up and doesn't find Sode, and that's okay. Because here comes the bridge anyways. And there we go. And it's amazing that you have the detail inside the bridge. Like, you can actually see into the bridge as it comes towards you, which is pretty awesome. We're going to request deboarding. And that's it, guys. So we are here. We've finished another leg. It's done. It's logged. There it is. With a descent rate of 153 feet per minute on landing. Yeah, it was a little bit fast, but it was okay. Let's see here. So yeah, so now we've only got a handful of legs. Already the schedule has really shrunk here. So we got a Schiphol turn, a Punta Cana turn, and an Orlando turn. So definitely the 330 for this one. Thinking the 37 for the Punta Cana turn, just as much for the fun of it as doing the 37 as anything else. I like the 320, but just for a little bit of variety, we'll do the 37 to Punta Cana, and then we'll sort of we'll leave it as a toss-up of whether we'll do the 320 or the 37 to Orlando. Although you could probably take a 330 to Orlando because there's frankly so much traffic going down that way. But anyways, that is it, guys. We are home. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream today, and yeah, I look forward to the next one. Like I said, I hope the 330 will work for me. I'm a little bit worried about it because it's been problematic in the past, but you know what? We're gonna go and we're gonna see what we could do anyways. And if it fails, it fails. We're gonna try. If it fails, and I cut off the stream midstream, I apologize in advance. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I've enjoyed this today. I hope you've had fun. As always, guys, stay safe out there. Be healthy. Stay home. Fly the sim. Don't go out and fly in the real world for now. Go fly in the real world for soon so I can have a job again. But in the meantime, guys, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys all real soon.